Chapter 74. The short-haired girl was obviously unhappy. When she was about to speak, she was stopped by the ponytailed girl. It's okay. It's okay. Is your seat in the back? Yes. Simple conversations often happened on the long-distance bus. Yi Huanyan remembered that when she was in college, she would go to the nearby cities with the girls in the dormitory when she had time. They were all long-distance buses back and forth, just like these three girls. The short-haired girl seemed to be unhappy. She rolled her eyes at Ling Han and helped the ponytailed girl put down the luggage. Yi Huanyan heard her murmur. It's fine if you can't walk when you see a good-looking man, but now you're even interested in an old man. Old men. Yi Huanyan felt that her saliva was suddenly choked in her throat. She wanted to laugh but didn't dare to. Ling Han glanced at her. His eyes were very unkind. Ugh! Yi Huanyan finally couldn't hold it in anymore and burst out laughing, causing the two girls to look at her several times with embarrassed expressions. The ponytailed girl glared at the short-haired girl. When she looked at Yi Huanyan, her face was red. The driver counted the number of people and was ready to start the bus. The bus slowly started to move. Yi Huanyan thought of the name, Old Man, and couldn't stop laughing. Ling Han was 7 years older than her, and he was 32 years old now. Although he was not in his teenage years, he was still in the golden age of a man. However, in the eyes of these young ladies, he was already an old man. Is it very funny? Ling Han tilted his head to look at her, his expression cold. It's not very funny. Yi Huanyan pursed her lips and tried not to think about the change in his face when he heard the three words, old man. The skill of making a black face at that moment was really not something that ordinary people could do. Looking at how she wanted to laugh but didn't dare to, and how she was trying her best to hold it in, Ling Han felt an inexplicable sense of anger in his heart. Old man? Am I old? Along the way, the highway was not considered bumpy, but it was not as comfortable as his own car. Ling Han frowned all the way. Not long after he started driving, he felt a pressure on his shoulder. He lowered his head and saw that the top of his head was leaning on his shoulder. He looked like he had fallen asleep. She could sleep like this after driving for less than 10 minutes. No wonder she would always lose things when she went out to play, when she was in university. It wouldn't be strange if she lost people like this. Even though he was thinking about this, his body did not move. He maintained the same posture all the way to Shanghai. When the long-distance bus passed through the highway security checkpoint, he stepped on the brakes too hard, and the bus shook violently. All the people in the bus who were dozing off were startled awake. Yi Huanyan was no exception. She suddenly rushed forward, and her forehead bumped into a warm body. She was shocked and looked up to see Ling Han's palm. When he stepped on the brakes, he was quick to reach out and hold Yi Huanyan's forehead first to prevent her head from hitting the seat in front of her. When Yi Huanyan woke up, she realized that her entire upper body was leaning on Ling Han's chest. She looked up and saw his chin. We're not there yet. She heard an indifferent voice from the top of her head. She was slightly stunned and nodded with a red face. She carefully moved back to her seat in his arms and did not dare to look into his eyes. Later they entered the highway around Shanghai. Although it was a highway, it was so congested that everyone in the bus started to get impatient. The overpass that was more than 100 meters long was filled with cars. There was no end in sight. The bus moved slowly, and every time it moved, it would shake violently. Even someone like Yi Huanyan, who never got carsick like this, felt suffocated. She heard a panting sound beside her. It sounded like someone had been holding back for a long time. She jerked her head around and saw Ling Han's pale face. You're carsick? She exclaimed. Why are you so noisy? Ling Han rolled his eyes at her weakly. Be quiet. Her heart sank when she heard his weak voice. Moreover, when she saw Ling Han close his eyes and not move after he said that, she panicked. She hurriedly opened her bag and started to rummage through it. As she searched, she tried to talk to Ling Han. I remember that I brought motion sickness pills. Let me look for them. Usually, Yi Huanyan was very good at taking care of Ling Han's daily chores in the office. However, she had always put her own things everywhere. There were all kinds of things in such a big bag, just like a treasure chest. However, there were too many things. She couldn't find the small box of motion sickness medicine, even after turning it over. Are you carsick? A soft female voice came from behind her. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. She turned around and looked in the direction of the voice. The girl with the ponytail seemed a little shy. She handed over a white wet napkin in her hand and spoke in a very soft voice. If you don't mind, you can try this. Stick it on your temple. It will quickly stop you from feeling dizzy. Yi Huanyan was stunned. She took it and said politely, thank you. Then thank you. It's okay. It was originally meant for Box, but I didn't use it. The girl with the ponytail explained with a smile. When she mentioned Box, she was slightly stunned. Oh right, Box is the one sitting in front of your boyfriend. The word boyfriend made Yi Huanyan blush. She subconsciously glanced at Ling Han. He looked indifferent. Box, whose name was inexplicably called, turned around and leaned on the seat with a look of contempt. When I came here, I said that I don't get carsick. It's more like you guys can use it yourself. After saying this, she looked at Ling Han meaningfully. Xiaowei, you're unlucky this time. Prepare more in the future. Maybe you can find a single uncle home. Box. You. The two girls talked back and forth. The girl with the long hair also turned around and said a few words. From the conversation, Yi Huanyan found out that the three of them were indeed studying in Lanjiang City University. It was not winter vacation yet, but the three of them had agreed to go to Shanghai to play. Yi Huanyan tore open the package of the anti-fainting medicine in her hand. There were 2 pieces of plaster that were not much bigger than a thumbnail. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. Why does it look like this? The girl with the ponytail called Xiaowei's eyes lit up. She whispered, this is it. Just stick the side of the plaster on your temples and tear open the membrane. Yi Huanyan imagined the appearance of Ling Han with dog skin plasters on his temples and couldn't help but laugh. She pressed one on each side of his temples. The medicine took effect very quickly. A cool feeling began to spread from his temples. Ling Han suddenly quivered and opened his eyes. There were 4 pairs of eyes staring at him, rolling around. He frowned and raised his hand to touch his face. Don't move. It's anti-fainting medicine. Yi Huanyan anxiously held his hand. TSK. The 3 onlookers looked at each other with ambiguous expressions. Ling Han glanced at Yi Huanyan indifferently and explained, my hair is covering my eyes. I'm going to move it away. Since that's the case, why don't you do it? The 3 girls consciously turned their heads and sat in their seats. They looked like they wouldn't look, but it made the atmosphere between the 2 of them even more ambiguous. Chapter 75. Yi Huanyan's face froze as she hurriedly let go of his hand. However, he didn't continue what he was doing. He placed his hands on his knees and waited for her to make a move. Yi Huanyan pursed her lips. She had no choice but to move closer to him. Then she raised her hand and brushed the loose strands of hair on his forehead to the side. Due to motion sickness, his forehead was drenched in sweat. His originally meticulous hairstyle was now a little messy and covered his eyes slightly. The car suddenly jolted violently. Ah! She cried out in surprise. She lost her balance and fell onto Ling Han's chest. A large hand held her firmly by her waist. Her face burned as she tried to get up. However, the car was a little bumpy as it entered the station, so she couldn't break free. Instead, she grabbed onto the collar of his suit jacket. As the car rocked, her entire face was pressed against his bouncy chest. She kept sliding up and down as her face burned fiercely. Suddenly, she heard a muffled groan from above her head. At the same time, her entire body froze as she felt something strange. When she got out of the car, she ran as fast as she could. Using her nimble body, she stepped over Ling Han's legs and got out of the back door. She pulled her 2 suitcases and ran far away towards the exit, leaving Ling Han alone far behind. The 3 girls talked and laughed as they got out of the car. After the short-haired girl got out of the car, she stood next to Ling Han and asked suspiciously, why did your girlfriend leave you behind? Ling Han's lips curved into a playful smile. She sat for too long. Maybe she wasn't feeling well. The estimated 2-hour car ride was delayed by an hour because of the traffic jam in Shanghai. After they arrived at the hotel, Yi Huanyan asked as she flipped through the hotel room menu, "President Ling, it's 12 now. Should we inform them to postpone the meeting at 2 in the afternoon?" Ling Han leaned against the sofa with the outline of the afternoon meeting in his hands. His eyes revealed his fatigue as he said flatly, "No need. We'll hold it on time." Yi Huanyan hesitated for a moment, but when she saw his serious expression, she swallowed the words in her heart. "Yes, I understand. It will take about half an hour for the hotel to prepare lunch. You can take a shower and rest for a while." The person on the sofa nodded, but did not move. After lunch, Yi Huanyan contacted the people at the Shanghai branch office in advance and accompanied Ling Han for a meeting in the afternoon. During the meeting, Yi Huanyan clearly felt that Ling Han did not look too good. She was sitting closest to him and could clearly see the fine beads of sweat on his forehead. The meeting lasted until the evening. Halfway through, they ordered a dinner. When they were putting away the lunch boxes, Yi Huanyan found that Ling Han's portion was barely touched. Xiao Wang, the assistant director of UXI and Media, the branch company in Shanghai, asked Yi Huanyan carefully as she helped to take out the packed lunchboxes. "Secretary Yi, is it because the food you ordered is not to President Ling's liking? I don't think President Ling has eaten at all." Seeing Xiao Wang's cautious look, Secretary Yi shook her head. "President Ling is not particular about such things when he is working. You don't have to be too stressed. The food is pretty good." Happy Heart Media used to be an online media company. When it was on the verge of bankruptcy due to lack of funds, it was acquired by Ling Han. At that time, Ling Dongming didn't think highly of online media operations and firmly opposed the acquisition. It was Ling Han who defended it and even used the funds that his mother left him. In the end, he bought it in his own name. After the online platform gradually improved, Ling Dongming formally proposed the acquisition to the board of directors of Huanyu Group. The current management of UXI and Media had experienced the company's bankruptcy and acquisition in the past, so they feared and admired Ling Han. Before he came, it was obvious that he had warned his subordinates not to make any mistakes. It was no wonder that Xiao Wang was so concerned. After comforting Xiao Wang, Yi Huanyan looked at the lunchboxes in the trash can with some worry in her heart. When the meeting ended, it was already 9 p.m. When the meeting was over, the senior management of UXI and Media looked tired. Someone suggested that it was so late, so they should go out and relax. Everyone had different expressions on their faces as they carefully observed Ling Han's expression. Yi Huanyan frowned and also looked at Ling Han. Shanghai's night scene was well known far and wide. The reason for such a bustling night scene was naturally Xingxiao's alluring nightlife. In the bar's private room, a few hot girls were twisting their bodies in front of the LED screen and holding the microphone as they sang. Their voices were charming, and their eyes were blurred. Yi Huanyan could not sit still. She had always hated such occasions, but as his secretary, she had to come since Ling Han was here. "President Ling, are you satisfied? This is the most stylish bar in Shanghai. All the girls here are proficient in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. No matter what you want to talk about, they can talk freely." The person who spoke was the department manager closest to Ling Han. He was slightly plump and not very tall. Yi Huanyan stood in front of him in her high heels, so they were almost at eye level. At this moment, he was probably drinking happily, so his face was flushed, and he spoke to Ling Han casually. Ling Han glanced at him with disdain in his eyes. "That's it." The manager was slightly stunned and hesitated. "President Ling, do you have any other requests?" Ling Han held the wine glass in his hand and looked at Yi Huanyan beside him. He said lightly, "What do you think of Secretary Yi?" Yi Huanyan's body stiffened and her face turned slightly pale. Normal people didn't like to be judged by others, especially when it was asked by someone they liked. The department manager wiped his sweat. He did not dare to offend Ling Han. So naturally, he did not dare to offend the secretary beside him. Everyone knew that Secretary Yi had the final say in the headquarters, and was second only to one person. Secretary Yi is naturally a top-notch beauty. She has the qualifications and the figure. How do these girls you recruited compare to Secretary Yi? Ling Han's words were getting more and more outrageous. Yi Huanyan stared at him in disbelief, but only saw that his eyes were blurred, and he looked like he was drunk. He shook the wine glass in his hand, and the ice cubes made a pleasant sound. If you want to talk about being in a favorable position, I only have Secretary Yi by my side. She doesn't know how to enjoy herself as well as you. When he said this, he had a smile that was not a smile. It was as if he was teasing her, as if it was just a code word used to curry favor in the drinking field. The department manager was stunned at first, but then the corners of his mouth curled up into an ambiguous arc. Under Yi Huanyan's puzzled gaze, he waved his hand and called a girl who was singing on the stage over. He whispered something into her ear, and that girl pinched his shoulder unhappily and walked out of the private room unwillingly. Not long after, the private room door opened and 7 or 8 girls filed in. Some had hot figures, some had innocent looks, some had big breasts, and some had smooth skin. All kinds of beauties gathered in one place. Yi Huanyan's expression froze. If she remembered correctly, these girls were popular female streamers on UXIN Media's live broadcast platform. Chapter 76. One by one, beautiful women stood on the stage like goods for people to pick and choose. They put on all kinds of different expressions. Some were shy, some were charming, some were bold and hot, and some were shy and pure. The managers in the room who came with them were mesmerized. Even from a distance, Yi Huanyan could hear the sound of the men swallowing their saliva. Even Yi Huanyan's eyes were fixed on the pure and lovely face of the famous streamer in the middle. If she remembered correctly, the one in the middle was Yin Guogua, the beauty streamer, who was quickly becoming popular on the live broadcast platform. She had entered the public's sight with her pure and lovely baby face and hot figure. President Ling, what do you think of these? They are the most popular female anchors on our platform this year. Ling Han didn't say anything. His shoulder was very close to Yi Huanyan, and the pressure from his shoulder made Yi Huanyan slightly stunned. He turned his head and saw from his face that his eyes were slightly narrowed, and he was looking at the beauties on the stage with a trace of unkind light. The department manager didn't realize the danger at all and waved his hand. Come, Guogua, come here. The female anchor in the hot short skirt stepped down from the stage with small steps, and there was a harmless smile on her pure face. For a moment, Yi Huanyan even thought that when God created humans, he used a random method for Yin Guogua. That pure face shouldn't grow on such a hot body. Yin Guogua obediently walked to Ling Han's side and glanced at the department manager. She knowingly picked up the wine glass beside her and knelt down in front of Ling Han in front of everyone. She was like a maid from the Middle Ages, groveling. President Ling, Guogua salutes you. Yi Huanyan couldn't sit still anymore. He suddenly stood up from the sofa and stared at the female anchor, kneeling on the ground with a shocked expression. What are you doing? Secretary Yi, sit down. Ling Han's voice sounded from beside him, with a majesty that couldn't be refused. Yi Huanyan frowned as she looked at him. No matter how hard she tried, she still couldn't figure out what he was up to. She just stood there in a daze. I heard that you're the one who's gaining the most popularity recently? Ling Han ignored her. He got up slightly and lowered his head toward Yin Guogua. He took the cup with one hand and pinched her chin with the other. It was as if he was admiring an object. His gaze was very naked. Yin Guogua was obviously well trained. Under such circumstances, she still maintained a smile and said in a soft and coquettish voice, "It's all thanks to the company's good training." Oh, did the company nurture him well? Ling Han raised his head and glanced at the department manager. You guys have fun. I'm taking this guy. Under Yi Huanyan's shocked gaze, Ling Han stood up and said those words, then suddenly suggested leaving. The department manager was overjoyed. He rubbed his hands and hurriedly said, Okay. We won't delay President Ling's business. Guogua, take good care of President Ling. Do you hear me? Yin Guogua obviously didn't expect to be chosen by the big boss so easily. A trace of astonishment appeared on her innocent face. She was stunned for a moment before she reacted. She hurriedly nodded and stood up with the help of the coffee table. After leaving the private room, The group left through the back door under the guidance of the waiter. Yi Huanyan glanced at the female anchor, following behind Ling Han from the corner of her eyes. She caught a glimpse of a pair of perky buttocks swaying left and right. Her face immediately darkened. There were countless women by Ling Han's side these past few years. She thought she was already used to it. It wasn't the first time such a scene had happened. Perhaps it was because Ling Han's pitiful little concern for her, during this period of time, made her lose her sense of propriety. She actually forgot the pain and the things that happened in the past after the scar healed. Not to mention that he had Sheng Amren by his side. She couldn't even count the number of women who came and went. Now that she had lost her status as his bed partner, she actually thought that Ling Han would be pure without her? Her chest suddenly felt stuffy. "Get in the car." A cold voice interrupted her thoughts. She raised her head, and her expression froze. Ling Han and Yin Guogua had already gotten in the car, and were sitting side by side in the back seat. Only the front passenger seat was left for her. The driver was Qiao Mu, Ling Han and his new love plus her, his former bed partner, who couldn't even be considered an old love? Wasn't it too strange? I'm not getting up. I'll take a taxi back to the hotel. Yi Huanyan took a step back. That's fine. After the cold voice, only the smell of car exhaust was left on the small road behind the bar. Was she that impatient? The car drove out of the bar street, passed through the downtown area, and then drove into the gradually empty street. There were 3 people sitting in the car, but Yin Guogua felt an inexplicable coldness. Stop the car in front. Ling Han's sudden words made her look up in surprise. However, she discovered that his gaze had been looking out the window and had no intention of landing on her at all. Even without the support of the enormous financial group behind him, his well-defined features and deep-set eyes were still the object of countless women's competition. Yin Guogua secretly swallowed her saliva. For the first time, she felt that tonight's work was not only worth it, but also a sure win. If she could curry favor with this master, wouldn't she be able to eat and drink in the future? Director Ling, it's not easy to get a taxi here. Are you sure you want to stop here? How about I send you to the hotel first? No need. Ling Han's attitude did not allow for refusal. Qiao Mu could only pull over and pull the car door open. Ling Han got out of the car alone. Yin Guogua looked out the window. There was an open park nearby, and her heart suddenly tightened. She inexplicably blushed. Field play? Rich people all like to play a little more exciting. It was not that she had not tried it before, but when she thought about having a night of passion with a man who was like her dream lover, an inexplicable desire arose in her heart. Miss Yin, you don't need to get out of the car. Qiao Mu held the car door and stopped her. Huh. She was slightly taken aback. Director Ling. Qiao Mu looked back at Ling Han. Ling Han brushed the non-existent dust off his arm. He did not look back, but his cold voice was exceptionally austere in the dark night. Go ahead. Ask clearly and settle the matter. There are some people I don't want to see starting tomorrow. Qiao Mu acknowledged and closed the car door. Yin Guogua watched as the man of her dreams rapidly retreated behind the car window. The field play of her dreams flew away before her eyes, leaving only an assistant in the car. She started to panic. You stopped the car. Where are you taking me? Miss Yin, you don't need to panic. I'm just taking you to a quiet place to sit. There are some things that our director Ling needs me to ask you clearly. Why doesn't he ask me himself? Yin Guogua was a bit angry, so her tone was a bit displeased. Because contempt flashed through Qiao Mu's eyes. Director Ling is obsessed with cleanliness. In the rearview mirror, the pure face in the back seat was gradually contorting. The so-called purity was merely a facade. Chapter 77. Yi Huanyan walked along the street for a long time. Only when the cold wind penetrated her coat and chilled her skin did she realize that she hadn't called a taxi yet. In the night, she laughed self-deprecatingly. This place was at least 5 kilometers away from the hotel. Was she planning to walk back? Yi Huanyan? Just as she called a taxi, a familiar ringtone sounded. It was a certain someone's ringtone. She was stunned and hurriedly looked for her phone in her bag. Hello. The voice on the other end of the phone was a little heavy, and the heavy breathing sounded like the sign of a cold. I've sent you the address. Call a taxi to pick me up. Yi Huanyan was stunned. Pick you up? Shouldn't he be spending the night with his new lover in a hotel? Why did he want her to pick him up? Yes, wait at the entrance of the park when you arrive. The park? Before she could ask in detail, the call was cut off. An intense scene flashed through her mind, and a sense of shame rushed to her head. She felt as if her blood and chi were surging. Was he crazy? He wanted her to pick him up after doing that kind of thing in that kind of place? Miss, where are you going? I'm not going to pick you up if you don't tell me. The driver urged impatiently. Oh, wait, let me see. Yi Huanyan hurriedly looked at the text message. Sir, Central Park South Gate. Going to Central Park so late at night. The driver looked at her strangely in the rearview mirror. Yi Huanyan wished she could find a hole and hide in it. She was innocent, but Ling Han made her a scapegoat for no reason. Judging from the look in the driver's eyes, he probably thought she was an indecent person. 10 minutes later, at the south gate of Central Park, Yi Huanyan wrapped her coat tightly around herself and got out of the car. In the cold wind, she looked around cautiously with anger and grievance. It was dark and windy. Except for a light at the entrance of the park, there was no light. The south gate was close to the Hu River, and the night wind was blowing. The place that Ling Han had chosen was really a good place for a field battle. When Yi Huanyan thought about what they might do, her nose turned sour, and her eyes started to burn. She estimated that she still had to wait for a while. She stood at the south gate and stomped her feet in the cold wind. However, she could still rationally calculate the time Ling Han would need to complete his task. The more she thought about it, the more uncomfortable she felt. She kicked a few pebbles near her feet and rolled far away. You're here, but you're not looking for anyone. Instead, you're playing with rocks? In the night, a familiar figure walked out from the riverside. His short black hair was messed up by the wind, but it did not affect his handsome facial features. Yi Huanyan froze. You're done? You. What end? Ling Han frowned and looked at her somewhat puzzled. Where's Yin Guogua? Hearing this, Ling Han slightly reacted. His expression slightly changed, and a trace of ridicule flashed in his eyes. Dressing by the river, do you want to go and see? Yi Huanyan's face suddenly turned pale, and her lips couldn't help but tremble. You really? Before she could finish speaking, she suddenly turned around. Her shoulders trembled slightly, and it was obvious that she was crying. The ridicule on Ling Han's face instantly froze. He was stunned. Looking at the back of the figure, he suddenly felt like a fish bone was stuck in his throat, and he shouted hoarsely. Hey! The thin figure twitched a little violently. The woman's lotus-pink woolen clothes looked inexplicably gentle and pitiful under the only street light at the south gate. Don't worry about me. Anyway, it's not your first time with those women. I'll be fine in a while. Although she said that, she couldn't stop crying. A trace of regret flashed in Ling Han's eyes. He couldn't help but reach out and pull her into his arms from behind. He rested his chin on the top of her head and sighed helplessly. Why do you believe everything that others say? The crying in his arms stopped abruptly, leaving only the twitching that hadn't stopped in time. She touched his chin and felt a little uncomfortable. Yi Huanyan looked up in surprise. What did you say? What month is it? Why is the wind so strong by the river? Do you think you can have a passionate night here? What are you thinking? Aren't you afraid of the cold? Yi Huanyan was slightly taken aback. After thinking carefully, it didn't seem very possible. Moreover, she still hadn't seen Yin Guogua. When she came back to her senses, she suddenly found herself in Ling Han's arms. He was hugging her from behind. Although she couldn't see his face, she could feel his heartbeat from behind and hear his even breathing from the top of her head. Her body stiffened sluggishly. Ling Han clearly also felt her stiffening, so he let go of her. He coughed dryly and walked toward the river without looking back. Let's go. It's not far from the hotel. The hotel they were staying at was by the river. It wasn't far from the river. She stood in place for a while. When she saw his back gradually disappear into the night, she hurriedly followed him. What about Yin Guogua? I instructed Xiao Mu to ask her something, so she was taken away. Then tonight's events were all part of your plan? There wasn't any plan. These people at Happy Heart Media think they're veterans of the company and are used to flaunting their seniority. They didn't plan to hide these things from anyone. I just wanted them to lower their guard and have one last night of revelry. Oh, I thought. What did you think? Ling Han looked at her teasingly. It's just a show. You're not jealous, are you? The night was dark, but Yi Huanyan felt like she saw a long-lost craftiness in Ling Han's eyes, just like when he succeeded in teasing her many years ago. She blushed and muttered aggrievedly, "Jealous? What right do I have to be jealous?" Ling Han was slightly taken aback, and his eyes gradually dimmed. And then, what are you going to do? Yi Huanyan sensed that the atmosphere was off, and tried to pull the topic back to the original track. And then tomorrow. Ling Han suddenly paused, and stood stiffly in place while covering his mouth. Yi Huanyan also stopped. Ah, Chiu! A loud sneeze exploded in the air. Yi Huanyan was stunned. You caught a cold? It's nothing. The embarrassment on Ling Han's face was drowned in the darkness of the night. He nonchalantly took out a handkerchief from his pocket and wiped his nose. Then, he casually threw the expensive Burberry handkerchief into the trash can by the river. Yi Huanyan was slightly speechless when she saw this. After returning to the hotel suite, everyone returned to their own rooms. Yi Huanyan came out of the shower to pour some hot water and found that the light in Ling Han's room was still on. So she also poured a cup of hot water and knocked on the door. Just as he knocked on the door opened by itself a sliver, and light came through. The door wasn't closed. She was slightly taken aback. Ling Han. No one responded. In the room, the chandelier was on. And the heater was on, so it was a little stuffy. Ling Han was lying on the bed with his eyes closed. His brows were slightly furrowed, and he seemed to be having a nightmare. His forehead was covered in sweat. As soon as Yi Huanyan entered the room, she felt that the temperature was not right. There was no need to turn on such a high temperature when sleeping. It was almost like a sauna. Ling Han. She tried to call out his name a few times, but the person on the bed did not respond at all. She felt a rush in her feet. She felt a burning sensation in her palm, and she quickly retracted her hand from his forehead. Why is it so hot? Chapter 78. She had just retracted her hand, and she could still feel the residual warmth on his forehead. Yi Huanyan thought about how Ling Han had gotten carsick in the car this morning. It had been a bumpy ride, and he had been in a meeting the whole afternoon. He hadn't eaten much for dinner, and he had drunk some wine in the evening. How could he not catch a cold and have a fever when he came back with her in the wind? Ling Han? Ling Han? Can you hear me? At this moment, Yi Huanyan's first reaction was to wake him up and go to the hospital together. The person on the bed didn't react at all, other than frowning even more. Yi Huanyan was a little flustered. She didn't know anything about medical treatment, and she didn't know if the method on the internet was reliable. Thinking of this, it was more reliable to call the hotel's customer service. The hotel had a private doctor. She took Ling Han's temperature and confirmed that he had a fever. The fever was a little high, but it wasn't serious. The fever isn't too high. It's 38.5 degrees. There's no need to go to the hospital. Physical cooling will do. You just have to try rubbing his body to lower his temperature. The doctor was a woman. She didn't know about the relationship between Yi Huanyan and Ling Han. In front of so many people, Yi Huanyan couldn't explain anything, so she could only nod. Yi Huanyan put the hot water beside the bed. She lowered the temperature in the room slightly. Then she lifted the blanket on Ling Han, unbuttoned his shirt, and wiped him bit by bit with a towel. The towel brushed against his chest, and she could clearly feel the elasticity of his skin. Yi Huanyan's face inexplicably felt a little hot. She sat by the bed and looked at a certain someone who was sleeping soundly with his eyes closed. She sighed silently. It seemed that she had never observed him at such a close distance before. His forehead was just right, and his eyebrows were thick. The distance between his eyebrows and his eyes was not large, making his eyes appear deep. When his eyes were open, they were very deep. When his eyes were closed, there was a pair of thick eyelashes. His nose was very tall and straight. He probably inherited it from Uncle Ling. His lips were very thin, but the shape was very nice. He did not look like Uncle Ling. He probably inherited it from his mother. Yi Huanyan had never met Ling Han's mother before, but she had seen her photo. On the bedside of Ling Han's bedroom, there was a photo of him and Wen Qingwan all year round. It was a photo of him when he was young. Wen Qingwan was smiling very gently at the side. She was clearly a very gentle woman. Compared to Wen Qingwan, her mother Jiang Meilan was a very passionate and unrestrained person. She didn't know what Ling Han's father was thinking at that time. How could there be such a big difference in their tastes? Yi Huanyan's hand held the towel and wiped Ling Han's cheek. At this moment, she suddenly felt very satisfied. With Ling Han by her side, all the unhappiness did not exist. She recalled a lot, and also muttered a lot of things in Ling Han's ear. Even though she knew that he was in a daze from the fever, and probably couldn't hear, he was sleeping soundly. Like this made her feel very safe. Those things that she wanted to say, but did not dare to say, usually all came out easily. When I was in my first year of university, I heard that the family relationship showed that two people who were related couldn't get married. At that time, I was very sad. There was even a period of time when I really hoped that my mother would divorce Uncle Ling, so that I could marry you. At that time, you always sent snacks to my dormitory. The girls in my dormitory were very envious that I had an older brother. They all thought that you were my biological brother. These things seem to have happened a long time ago. A while ago, when you were especially bad to me, I relied on these things to persevere. I know that I shouldn't have run to Grandma and said that I wanted to marry you without asking for your opinion, but I really don't want to marry someone else. I don't want you to marry someone else either. The long-winded voice gradually disappeared and was replaced by the sound of even breathing. Ling Han slowly opened his eyes and lowered his head to look at the woman who was sleeping on the back of his hand. A trace of pity appeared in his eyes. He carried her to the bed, pulled her into his arms, and covered her with the blanket. The next morning, Yi Huanyan woke up on the bed in Ling Han's bedroom. She got up from the bed, and there was no one beside her. There was a soft sound in the living room. She put on her shoes and carefully opened the door a crack. She saw a familiar figure in the living room. The hotel's room service staff left after setting up breakfast. Ling Han's back was facing her, and he was talking on the phone. Yes, pleading? No need. I don't plan to see them, and I don't plan to hear any nonsense. That Yin Guagua, get her an agent. Repackage her according to the standards of a proper artist. After the live broadcast, we'll see how the market is like. No need. Attend the morning meeting as usual. I'll be done in about 15 minutes. Drive downstairs and wait for me. 15 minutes? Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. She lowered her head to look at her pajamas. She couldn't care less about her face. She opened the door and rushed out. Ling Han was still holding the phone in his hand. When he saw Yi Huanyan come out like this, a trace of astonishment flashed in his eyes. However, his tone was still calm. Okay, that's it. After hanging up the phone, Ling Han sized up Yi Huanyan, who was standing behind the sofa. The faint smile in his eyes made Yi Huanyan shiver uncontrollably. I'll definitely be done in 15 minutes. She rubbed the back of her head, and then rushed into her bedroom. She did not hear Ling Han's words at all. There's no hurry. Looking at the back view that was like the wind, the corners of Ling Han's mouth curved up. The hotel's breakfast unexpectedly tasted good. Chapter 79. Inside UXIN Media's office building conference room. Compared to the previous day, when the room was filled with people, the number of people present was obviously less than half of the previous day. Ling Han was not there yet, so the higher-ups of the various departments looked at each other. Did old Tang drink too much last night? Why isn't he at the company yet? Donglin isn't here either. Isn't that a waste of time? Xiao Lin, go and ask a few departments why their managers aren't here. There's no need to go. Her clear and cold voice was powerful and resonant. The noise in the meeting room returned to silence, and the discussions stopped abruptly. Ling Han, who was dressed in a black suit, had a cold aura about him as he walked to the conference table. Compared to the previous day's humble and polite manner, there was an inexplicable murderous aura around him. The beautiful secretary behind him was carrying a stack of documents. As soon as she entered the room, she began to distribute them to the managers of the various departments. No matter how one looked at her, she was a weak woman. However, even though she was a woman, she was Ling Han's personal secretary. When she distributed the documents, she looked calm and steady, and no one could find the slightest flaw in her expression. President Ling, I saw that the managers of the artist management department weren't here today, so I wanted to ask Xiao Lin to find out what was going on. The person who spoke was Zhao Dongqi, the former boss of UXIN Media before it was acquired. He was in his early 50s and was the executive director of the company. When Ling Han was not around, he was basically the acting president and managed the various affairs of UXIN Media. He had long been prepared to retire, and he was only staying here because of Ling Han's request. As you can see, the HR department has already processed the resignation procedures for the managers and their subordinates who were absent today. Since last night, they are no longer employees of UXIN Media. As soon as he said this, there was a lot of discussion in the conference room. Among the people who were absent today, there were 4 department managers, 6 deputy managers, and a few salespeople who were supposed to attend the meeting. They were supposed to be the key personnel of the departments. According to Ling Han, the company was equivalent to firing half of the company's senior management. President Ling, how can we do this? Old Tang and a few other department managers have to watch over the operations of the artists management department every day. If we fire all of them at once, something will go wrong. The company won't be able to operate normally. Manager Zhao. Ling Han interrupted him with a cold expression. With these people around, the company can't operate normally, right? Back then, you gave UXIN Media the right to choose the artists on the live streaming platform to cultivate. You were the one who personally promised me that. Why? Have you thought of an explanation for the incident of the host being caught for being involved in pornography? Zhao Dongqi's face stiffened. In yesterday's meeting, Ling Han didn't mention a single word about the anchor's involvement in pornography. After all, the pleasure group was rich and powerful. With a little bit of money, this news could be suppressed. In fact, when Zhao Dongqi first found out that Ling Han was going to inspect UXIN Media in person, he panicked and was so anxious that he couldn't sleep the whole night. Yesterday, he didn't mention this matter and finally felt relieved. But today, this old matter was brought up again. He really couldn't handle it. President Ling, regarding the matter of pornography, I will give you an explanation. But the content of the female anchor's broadcast was definitely not arranged by us. She is not the focus of the company at all. He broke out in a cold sweat. Although he was panicking, he had to consider the company's operations. So he simply braced himself and tried to persuade him. But you still have to be careful about the dismissal of the department manager. President Ling, this is not a child's play. A child's play? Ling Han curled the corners of his mouth and smiled coldly. He suddenly raised the volume of the document in his hand and slammed it on the table. Not the focus of the company. It's because the focus of the company has climbed into the bed of the department manager that these female anchors, who have no future, are forced to take risks. Manager Zhao, why don't you take a look for yourself? Zhao Dongqi was stunned. He lowered his head and looked at the unopened document. When he opened it, there was only confusion in his eyes. After flipping a few pages, his body swayed, and he fell into the chair with an embarrassed expression. Yi Huanyan stood behind Ling Han with a pitiful look in her eyes. After all, Zhao Dongqi was old. Many things in the company were handled by the people around him. It was these so-called people he trusted who played tricks under his nose. The female anchor who was involved in pornography was not considered an internet celebrity. The number of fans could only be said to be above average. After the incident, Yi Huanyan handled this case. She was surprised to find that the female anchor involved in the incident was very good-looking. Compared to the face of all the internet celebrities, she was really a fresh stream. Her dancing and singing skills were all online. Although she often talked about pornography in the live broadcast, there had never been such an incident before. If she hadn't been taken away by the police during the live broadcast, she probably wouldn't have appeared at the pleasure conference. In the conference room, there were many people flipping through documents. Ling Han glanced at Yi Huanyan. She understood, and took out the prepared recording pen to play it in the conference room. Anyway, after today's broadcast, I won't be in this line of work anymore. I can't make much money, and I have to look at people's eyes every day. It's convenient for those shameless old B***stards in the company. Why don't I give back to the otaku fans who raised me and gave me food? At least I have a clear conscience. This was the first time Yi Huanyan heard this recording, but it was the first time she heard someone talk about selling her body in such a dignified manner on the live broadcast platform. Her face was full of surprise. However, this female anchor said in the recording that she didn't make much money. This was true. The share of rewards between the company and the anchor was basically 30 to 70. The company took 70%, and the live broadcast platform management fee took 10%. Only 20% was left in the hands of the anchor. In addition, the company used the rewards for publicity, which meant that the internal staff's rewards were not included. Aside from that, the top 10 most popular anchors on the live broadcast platform earned about 100,000 yuan a month. Yusin Media had more than 1,000 online artists, but only 10 to 20% of them could be promoted to the top. Even the top anchors could only earn that much, not to mention those who were unknown and invisible. Company subsidies. There's such a thing. I've been in the company for almost a year. I've only heard that those old B***stards in the company who sleep with the surname Tang get subsidies, but I've never heard of any other sisters getting any subsidies. We all get our share of rewards, and it's only enough for our basic living expenses every month. What about the company's public live broadcast room? Although the voice was edited, Yi Huanyan still recognized Qiao Mu's voice. That was why Qiao Mu didn't come to Shanghai with them. At that time they split up. We do have that, but we don't have the right to use it, so we can only set it up at home. The company's well-decorated live broadcast rooms are specially for them. The conference room was silent, and everyone lowered their heads to listen to the recording silently. They had been in the company for so long, so it was impossible for them not to know about these things. Most people felt that it was better to avoid unnecessary trouble, so they simply turned a blind eye to it. After all, it was all consensual. Yi Huanyan put away the recording pen and said solemnly, "This is the recording of the female anchor involved in the incident." Chapter 80. There was no need for Yi Huanyan to say anything. The executives present could tell who was the one who said that. "Manager Zhao, what else do you have to say?" Ling Han leaned back in his chair. His eyes were cold like a sharp blade as he glanced at the executives present. UXIN Media relied on the support of the Pleasure Group for its capital operation. Everything from the renovation of the live broadcast room to the monthly basic salary allowance for internet celebrities came from the Pleasure Group. But now, it seemed that not a single cent of this money was spent on the right path. The four managers of the artist management department had colluded with each other and nurtured all the signed artists of the company's live broadcast platform into their own harem. Those who slept well would be promoted, and those who did not sleep well would be suppressed. There were many female anchors involved in this kind of thing. They were either waiting for their contracts to expire, or waiting for God to open his eyes and become popular overnight. The reason why the female streamer involved was so desperate to take such a risk was that the manager surnamed Tang had provoked her with threats and promises. She was determined to fight to the death with the company before she left. After this incident, her reputation was completely ruined. However, as she wished, the incident had reached the head office and Ling Han. As a result, the corruption within UXIN Media, which had always made Ling Han feel at ease, was slowly exposed. No one would have thought that this seemingly glamorous operation was filled with rotten flesh and maggots. Ling Han tapped his fingers on the table. Every word he said was very cold. "From today onwards, Manager Zhao, take a break. I'll send someone from the headquarters to take over UXI and media. The HR department has already put on record that the employees who leave will never be hired again. Your job now is to appease the signed artists. I'll send someone to supervise and select a batch of key training targets for this year. I don't want this kind of thing to happen again. No one dared to refute Ling Han's decision. In fact, according to his previous behavior, even if he dismantled the entire company, it was not impossible for him to return the funds to the headquarters. In Yi Huanyan's eyes, this was already lenient. After returning to the hotel, Ling Han lay on the sofa. His suit was wrinkled. He closed his eyes and looked a little tired. Yi Huanyan poured a cup of tea and placed it on the coffee table in front of him. She said softly, "President Ling, have some water." Ling Han didn't move. He was still lying on the sofa, but his voice was a little muffled. I wonder how he dealt with these things back then. Yi Huanyan was slightly taken aback. He was probably referring to Ling Dongming. Ling Dongming had a natural business mind, which she had heard countless times from Jiang Milin. He was skilled in business, and no matter what kind of crisis he encountered, he would be able to think of a solution immediately. Furthermore, his temper was very gentle, as if she had never seen him anxious before. Ling Han had inherited his brain, but not his temper. If Uncle Ling was still around, he would also be angry with them. His way of dealing with it was not much different from yours. It was just the difference between a good-tempered person and a bad-tempered person. In fact, sometimes, they would take it more seriously if they were angry with their employees. This was also what Uncle Ling told me at that time. He was also very troubled about whether he would get angry. Ling Han flipped over and sat up from the sofa. Are you saying that I have a bad temper? Yi Huanyan's expression froze and she looked embarrassed. Well, that's not what I meant. What I meant was that it's still very important to treat your subordinates with both kindness and severity. Both kindness and severity. A faint smile flashed across Ling Han's eyes. When Yi Huanyan saw this expression, she felt an inexplicable fear. Secretary Yi, as a subordinate, do you think I treat you with kindness or kindness? His sudden question made Yi Huanyan's expression stiffen. I think it's just right. Thinking about Ling Han's current mood, Yi Huanyan swallowed her saliva. She felt that it was better to leave. She stood up and walked towards the door of the suite. Well, I'll ask the hotel if there's any milk. It'll help me sleep better. Yi Huanyan. His voice came from behind her. She stopped in her tracks and couldn't help but freeze on the spot. What do you think about starting over? Her heart seemed to contract violently at this moment, as if she was suffocating. Then, that sentence began to circulate in her mind without limit. Her heart began to beat wildly, as if it was going to jump out of her chest. She couldn't suppress her emotions. She stood rooted to the spot with her back facing Ling Han. She wanted to turn around, but didn't dare to. She was afraid that when she turned around, she would see the playful smile on his face and the sarcasm of success. Ling Han stood behind her, a rare warmth floating in his deep eyes. When he woke up in the morning, he saw her in his arms when he opened his eyes. She mumbled twice, as if her sleeping position wasn't very comfortable. She moved around in his arms. At that moment, he suddenly felt that it was wonderful to be able to see her when he woke up. There was an indescribable feeling spreading in his heart. You just said. She slowly turned around and looked up at him, her eyes full of shock. Looking at her skeptical look, Ling Han thought that she had some misgivings. His eyes dimmed slightly as he said lightly, "You don't have to answer now. I can give you time to slowly think about it." There was still a long way to go. He had a lot of time to slowly wait. When Ling Han said this, Yi Huanyan's heart was filled with mixed feelings. It wasn't a dream, it was reality. She should be jumping for joy. But at this moment, her head couldn't seem to turn around. During this period of time, Ling Han's change was too big and too sudden. She couldn't even figure out why Ling Han suddenly wanted her to move back to the old house. During this period of time, she was still living in confusion. Suddenly, she was faced with the choice of whether to start over or not. Just call them to send the hot milk up. You don't have to make a trip yourself. Ling Han suddenly interrupted her. His calm tone accurately connected the previous conversation, as if this question had never existed. Yi Huanyan nodded slowly, her head dizzy. That night, in the 2 bedrooms across the living room, there were 2 different scenes. Yi Huanyan tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep. After lying down for a while, she felt uncomfortable. When she finally felt a little sleepy, she couldn't help but think of what Ling Han said that night. Her mind instantly became clear again, and she began to struggle. She simply climbed out of bed and sat down on the sofa with 2 different colored pillows in her arms. The 2 pillows were placed on the coffee table in front of her. "Do you think we should get back together?" She crouched beside the black pillow and imitated Ling Han's deep tone. After saying this, she quickly jumped behind the white pillow and said frantically, "What do you mean by I think? I've been sleeping with you for half a year. Don't you know what I think?" After rambling for a while, she crouched back behind the black pillow and said coldly, "You don't have to answer now. I can give you time to slowly think about it." After saying this, she madly threw the black pillow on the ground and stomped on it. F*CKU. You don't have to answer now. F*CKU. Give me time to think about it. I only have one man like you. When it's time to be tough, why are you so slow? Chapter 81. While Yi Huanyan was going crazy in her room, the atmosphere in the opposite bedroom was very peaceful and harmonious. The light at the bedside was turned on just right, and the black curtains were drawn tightly. A distinct and well-defined face peeked out from under the sheets. His breathing was even, and it was rare for him to sleep soundly for more than half a year. The next day, Yi Huanyan got out of bed with a pair of panda eyes and applied 2 thick layers of powder in front of the mirror to barely cover them. However, she was still a little sickly and was clearly not in good spirits. The resignation of the 4 department managers of Yusin Media was indeed a very shocking matter. After all, it was not a normal resignation, and they did not even go through the most basic handover procedures. If it were someone else, they might not have the courage as Ling Han did. Ling Han did this because he felt that it was just a small piece of Pleasure Group's grand territory, and it made no difference to him whether it was there or not. However, Yi Huanyan knew how important Yusin Media was to Ling Han. If he really did not care, he would have directly closed down Yusin Media when he found out about the internal corruption. Since someone had left, someone had to replace him, and it had to be someone he trusted the most. Therefore, Ling Han's assistant Xiao Mu became the most suitable candidate. Xiao Mu and Ling Han had graduated from master's degree at the same time and returned to the country. After so many years of friendship, they were more like good friends than superiors. "If you leave assistant Xiao here, who will do the assistant's work when you go back?" Yi Huanyan could not help but ask. "While Xiao Mu stays at Yusin to rectify the situation, I'll leave his work to you." "Ha!" Yi Huanyan exclaimed and looked at Ling Han in disbelief. He sat in the car and stared straight ahead. His well-defined fingers gripped the steering wheel, and his expression was calm, as if what he had just said was nothing out of the ordinary. "You want me to do it?" I haven't done Assistant Xiao's work before. It's similar to your work as a secretary. It's just that my assistant needs to follow me to various occasions." It was rare for Ling Han to have the patience to speak so casually. However, Yi Huanyan was not a naive girl on her first day at work. In terms of pleasure, she was very clear about the difference between an assistant and a secretary. The company's assistants were all trained to be at the level of the branch company's general manager. Whether it was in terms of the control of connections or the introduction of customer resources, almost one assistant could be compared to 10 salespeople in the department. Besides, Xiao Mu graduated with a master's degree from a famous foreign university, and her diploma was the same as Ling Han's. Letting her, a domestic art graduate, take his position was really flattering her. "Why don't you think about it again? There are still many people in the headquarters. I can help you find. You don't want to work beside me?" Ling Han suddenly asked. She was slightly taken aback. "Stay by your side and work?" She was just thinking about how to get rid of this hot potato, but she didn't think that as an assistant, she had to stay by Ling Han's side all the time. Was that what he meant? What do you mean? I said I would give you time to think about it. If you stay by my side during this time, wouldn't it be easier for you to give me an answer that is more beneficial to me? Today, it was as if Ling Han had eaten honey, and his words made Yi Huanyan feel the lingering sweetness in the air that could not be erased. She suddenly felt her face burning, and she could not say a single word of rejection. I'm going to have a discussion with Qiao Mu at the hotel in the afternoon about the rectification of Yusin Media. You don't need to accompany me. If you're bored, you can walk around outside and have the people from Yusin accompany you. Ling Han's gentle attitude made Yi Huanyan feel that what she said last night was not just a pipe dream. Perhaps it was true that she had waited until the clouds parted, or perhaps it was true that he had changed his mind. There was an unconcealable smile in her eyes. In the afternoon, Qiao Mu arrived at the hotel on time with the documents. Yi Huanyan was packing her luggage in the room and had no intention of going out for a walk. She had been to Shanghai many times, and it was too commercialized. If she wanted to talk about going out for a walk, she would just go shopping and buy some things. She was not used to shopping alone without someone to talk to. Just as she was packing her luggage, her phone suddenly rang. It was an unknown number. She hesitated for a moment, looked at the somewhat familiar number, and pressed the answer button. Hello. Yin Yin, it's me, Lu Shen. When Yi Huanyan went out, Ling Han was flipping through the company's rectification plan that Qiao Mu had drafted. Seeing that she had changed and was about to go out, he looked up with a calm expression. Yi Huanyan felt a bit guilty and explained, I'm done packing, so it's better not to disturb you. I'm going out to get some fresh air. Ling Han raised his eyebrows slightly, and his expression was a bit cool. Afternoons are your free time to begin with. His blatant flirting made Yi Huanyan blush, and she hurriedly ran away with her head lowered. A strange look flashed through Qiao Mu's eyes. Thinking about how he was suddenly transferred to the management of the branch company, a trace of doubt gradually rose in his heart. He hesitated for a few seconds and probed. President Ling, I've thought about it carefully. There are still many things that haven't been done in the head office. If I'm transferred here, I might not be able to take care of the work there. How about we get someone else to do it? Ling Han frowned and looked up. He circled the key points on the proposal with a black pen and said calmly, No, I don't trust other people. Besides, you can just leave the head office's matters to Secretary Yi. You should know her ability. Qiao Mu was slightly taken aback. As expected, in the booth of the revolving restaurant of Shanghai's Riverside building, a very eye-catching man in a white coat was anxiously waiting for a certain someone's arrival. He did not remember anything that happened after he got drunk that night. If his manager had not told him everything, he really did not know if he would have given up on seeing her. Not long after, under the guidance of the waiter, a woman with long black hair looked in the direction of the booth in confusion. He raised his hand and saw her nod slightly, revealing a trace of a smile. Have you been waiting long? There are always traffic jams in Shanghai. He stood up and pulled out the seat for her in a gentlemanly manner. Thank you. A trace of astonishment flashed across her face. You don't have to be so polite with me. Soon Yanhua took off his sunglasses, revealing the appearance that many girls dreamed of. I'm already very happy that you can come. 20 minutes ago, Sun Yanhua called her and found out that she was in Shanghai. It just so happened that his concert was held in Shanghai tonight. So he asked her to come out to meet him, as an apology for his rash drunkenness last time. What do you want to eat? Look at the menu. I only ordered coffee for you. Sun Yanhua handed over the menu. Isn't the concert starting at 7:30 tonight? Don't you need to prepare in advance? Looking at the menu, Yi Huanyan was a bit hesitant. Chapter 82. It's okay. We've already rehearsed. It's still early. Sun Yanhua looked a little uneasy. Looking at Yi Huanyan's expression, he seemed to be in a difficult position. You've had lunch, right? Let's order some desserts. This shop's desserts are not bad, and the environment is not bad. Yi Huanyan actually wanted to end it early and go back to rest. After all, with Sun Yanhua's current popularity, He could be recognized at any time on the streets. She had experienced such a storm once, and she did not want to experience it again. However, seeing how careful he was, she could not bear to see him like this. Okay, then let's order desserts. She had not seen Lu Shen for 10 years. Now that she could sit here quietly and eat something, even she felt that it was very magical. Brotherly told me about what happened when I was drunk. I'm really sorry. Brotherly even went to look for you. Did he cause you any trouble? It's nothing. I got off work at that time, and he sent me home. He couldn't get a taxi, so he did me a favor. You got off work so late? Su Nianhua was a little surprised. Yi Huanyan was stunned, as if she did not know how to explain. It's not convenient to say this, right? He thought that this topic involved some privacy, so he quickly changed the topic. Oh right, your best friend Xiao Yu. Actually, I really did not mean to use her. She's a very cute girl, and she's also my fan, so I don't mean any harm to her. If you mind, I won't be in contact with her in the future. He used to be a man of few words, and compared to Ling Han now, he did not know much. The reason why he rambled on like this was because he was nervous. Yi Huanyan took a sip of coffee, and was a little uncomfortable. Lu Shen. He was slightly taken aback, and stopped his incoherent chatter. Actually, you don't have to deliberately find a topic to talk about. Although we haven't seen each other for a long time, you know my personality, and I know your temper. Even if there's no topic to talk about, it's good to sit here quietly and enjoy the scenery for a while. Her gaze was calm, and her tone was soothing. Su Nianhua could not connect her with the Yi Huanyan from back then. I still haven't formally apologized to you for what happened back then. That's what I wanted to tell you today. Yi Huanyan slowly exhaled. Actually, you didn't do anything wrong back then. If you hadn't met me, you would have left the country. Later on, my mother asked me if I wanted to go with you. I chose to stay. At the end of the day, girls matured earlier than boys, and were more able to distinguish between right and wrong. 10 years ago, Yi Huanyan knew that Lu Shen should have left the country. Even if he had broken up with her, he should have left the country. That was his path, and she couldn't go. That was her own path. It was you who didn't want to go. Yes, my family wasn't in a good situation at that time, so I had to stay and accompany my mother. At the mention of this, Yi Huanyan had already become indifferent to it. Then you, Su Nianhua choked up a little. Have you ever regretted it? All these years? If she had gritted her teeth and left with him back then, would the two of them be in a different situation now? I don't regret it. Almost without hesitation, Yi Huanyan raised her head and looked into his eyes. My mother passed away 2 years ago. After I calmed down and thought about it, it was fortunate that I stayed by her side all these years and did some filial piety. If I had left with you back then, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to feel at ease for the rest of my life unless something like this happened. Su Nianhua's expression froze. He didn't expect that something like this would happen to Yi Huanyan's family. Back then, when he left the country, he tried to send many letters to high schools in the country, but they were like stones thrown into the sea. At that time, Yi Huanyan had transferred schools. Those letters that couldn't find the recipients were either lost or returned to him. In the end, he couldn't contact her. He didn't know what she had experienced in the past 10 years. I'm sorry, I didn't know. What's there to be sorry about? Jin Yin smiled. It has nothing to do with you. My mother is very magnanimous. She took care of me for so many years, and weathered all kinds of storms. If you want to talk about hardships, actually, I didn't suffer much with her. Her life was quite worth it. Yi Huanyan's father died early, so Yi Huanyan's impression of him was very vague. Later on, when Jiang Milan met Ling Dongming, she fell in love with him so much that she didn't feel burdened at all. Instead, she was very happy for her. In this life, Jiang Milan had everything she wanted. Whether it was money, love, or marriage, she had it all. Her only regret was that she didn't have a long life. In life, there were always some regrets. Yi Huanyan looked at the shocked and pained expression on the man's face, and felt a little apologetic. She pretended to be relaxed and said, "But at that time, when she first found out that I was with you, she was quite happy. You don't know, right? She liked you very much. She even told me that if she was 5 or 6 years younger, she would dare to snatch you from me. If she was free, when we returned to Lanjiang, I would bring you to give her 2 bouquets of flowers. She would definitely be very happy underground. Su Nianhua smiled helplessly at her words that could be said to be disrespectful to the dead. If Aunt Jiang heard this, she would deduct your pocket money. I'm earning my own money now. I don't have to worry about food and drink. She can't control me. Speaking of salary, Yi Huanyin glanced at Su Nianhua and stuck out her tongue. But of course, I don't earn as much as you. Su Nianhua forced a smile. After Aunt Jiang passed away, did you live alone? He was more concerned about Yi Huanyin's current living situation. You're Su Nianhua. Can you give me an autograph? A crisp voice suddenly sounded. Yi Huanyin was worried about how to answer. She was suddenly interrupted by this voice, which solved her awkwardness. The girl who came was standing between the two of them. She was wearing a black coat. She covered her face shyly with one hand and held an exquisite small notebook in the other. She was looking at Su Nianhua hesitantly. Yi Huanyin took the opportunity to lower her head and drink the coffee, covering her face. Su Nianhua glanced at Yi Huanyin and frowned. Then he said apologetically, I'm sorry, today is my private time. I'll sign it next time if there's a chance. The girl was obviously disappointed. Brother Hua, I'm your fan. I didn't get a ticket for tonight's concert. I didn't expect to meet you here. Just an autograph. Don't take a picture, okay? Little girl, if you do this, why don't you sign it for her? When Yi Huanyin thought about her best friend who was obsessed with idols, she couldn't help but speak up for her little girl. Su Nianhua looked at her in shock. In the end, under her expectant gaze, he helplessly took the notebook from the little girl's hand. He flipped to a page and signed his name. Thank you. Do you need me to take a picture for you? Yi Huanyin took the initiative to ask, completely ignoring Su Nianhua's shocked expression. The little girl was obviously at a loss. She trembled and said, Can I? Yi Huanyin's questioning gaze fell on Su Nianhua. His face stiffened, and he nodded helplessly. He silently cursed in his heart. You already said it's okay. Do you want me to embarrass you here? At this moment, he suddenly felt that Yi Huanyin was still the same as 10 years ago. She loved to tease people, liked to make decisions on her own, did things regardless of the consequences, and always acted bravely for justice. She was still as cute as before. Chapter 83. Are you numb to autographs and photos like this? After watching the little girl leave, Yi Huanyin asked. Sort of. There are too many of them, so sometimes. I really feel that it's private time, especially when you're here. I don't want them to disturb you. I'm fine. Yi Huanyin smiled sincerely. You know Xiaoyu? She's been a big fan of yours recently. I don't chase after celebrities, but every time I see her telling me about her new boyfriend so seriously, she can really wait at the airport for a photo or an autograph. Su Nianhua was slightly stunned. Wait at the airport for a whole night? He was busy with his work, so he didn't know much about fans. However, when people asked him for autographs and photos, he wouldn't refuse most of the time. After all, they were people who liked him. You don't know how hard it is for fans like them to see you. Yi Huanyin was slightly stunned and said hesitantly. So when I saw that little sister's disappointed look, I thought of what happened to Xiaoya. I was careless. There was a trace of guilt in his eyes. If I encounter something like this in the future, I won't refuse. Yi Huanyin smiled and nodded. It's good that she didn't cause you any trouble. Trouble? Su Nianhua forced a smile. Maybe. You don't know much about our industry. Huh. How about we go somewhere else? Su Nianhua picked up his jacket. This sudden action made Yi Huanyin confused. She was about to drink her coffee, but her hand was already on the cup. Oh, are we leaving now? Yeah. Su Nianhua frowned, vaguely feeling that something was wrong. Yi Huanyin put down the coffee cup and looked up in confusion. She suddenly realized that everyone was looking at them. 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon was a good time for afternoon tea. The little girl from earlier was sitting in the booth behind Su Nianhua, pointing at them with a group of girls. Some of them seemed to be taking pictures with their phones. Yi Huanyan's expression stiffened. She finally understood what Su Nianhua meant when he said there might be some problems. Sure enough, one shouldn't be too compassionate, right? Brother Hua, can I have your autograph? Brother Hua, I want to take a picture with you. Brother Hua. Yi Huanyan couldn't remember how she was surrounded by a large group of people. She only remembered that Su Nianhua had pulled her out of the restaurant before she could react. But they were still blocked by the reporters and fans downstairs who heard the news and came to block them. Su Nianhua took off his jacket and covered her face with it. While blocking the fans, he retreated. In the end, the restaurant staff helped to send the two of them into the lounge and blocked the fans outside. Yi Huanyan's hair was messy on her shoulders, and her face was still in shock. You must be scared, right? Su Nianhua's eyes were full of apology. He took the cup of water from the waiter and handed it to Yi Huanyan first. Drink some water first. I'll call Brotherly. He will come and take us away. Yi Huanyan drank a mouthful of water and barely calmed her emotions. So this was what it felt like to be hunted down. Su Nianhua's jacket was on her legs. It was pure white and very clean. It seemed to be the first time he wore it. He was talking on the phone in the corner. He looked a little impatient, as if he was very anxious and worried. Yi Huanyan looked up at the clock on the wall. It was already 4 o'clock. He should be at the concert venue early, right? After hanging up the phone, Su Nianhua walked towards her. What did you say? Brotherly is on his way. But we still have to think of a way to avoid the fans and rush out. It might be a little dangerous. It's okay. Why don't you just go? I'll stay here alone. Anyway, the one they want to chase is you. Leave you alone to be questioned by the reporters? Su Nianhua blinked. I don't want to do something so unkind. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned, thinking of how scary the reporters and fans were. Her whole body trembled. I'll go with you. At 5:30, Su Nianhua received a call. His agent had already driven the car to the restaurant building. The restaurant staff pointed in the direction of the back door. He waved at Yi Huanyan. Come here. Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned and walked over in confusion. There was a faint smell of perfume. The light suddenly became dim. His body temperature and breath seemed to sweep across her forehead. He put the jacket on her head and said softly, Cover your face. The reporters will pay attention to the mosaics, but the fans won't. If you are exposed, it will be troublesome. Yi Huanyan nodded. Her hands covered both sides of her face. Wearing Su Nianhua's sunglasses, only her nose was exposed for breathing. Are you ready? Su Nianhua asked. Yes. She felt a warmth in her palms. She panicked. Before she could react, she was pulled out by him. Her feet involuntarily followed him. Her high heels stepped on the floor and the stairs, and the soles of her feet were painful. Don't look back. Run with me. A familiar figure was waving at them in front of them. Li Dali looked anxious. He was angry at Su Nianhua for acting on his own this time. The door of the white van was already open. Su Nianhua's voice was drowned out by the wind. It was the first time that she had encountered such a situation where she was being chased. She couldn't help but turn around to look at the direction of the pursuers. As she turned around, she lost her balance and crashed into Su Nianhua's back. She cried out in alarm, and one of the high heels on her feet fell off. Su Nianhua quickly turned back to help her. Seeing that the pursuers were not far away, he simply carried Yi Huanyan in a princess carry and ran toward the van. More than 10 meters away, Yi Huanyan leaned into the embrace that smelled faintly of perfume. There was only one thought in her mind. She really shouldn't have turned back. Her ankle really hurt. She probably sprained her ankle. Crash! The fans screamed, and the camera flashes were all turned off outside the car door. Li Dali sat opposite the two of them and tried to take deep breaths to adjust his mood. Su Nianhua, how can you do this? Do you know that we are going crazy looking for you? Do you know that you have a concert tonight? Su Nianhua didn't care about the agent's question. He didn't even look at Li Dali. He carefully put Yi Huanyan on the seat and asked, Is your ankle okay? Yi Huanyan held her ankle and tried to move it a little. She said embarrassedly, It's nothing. It's just my shoes. Unfortunately, that pair of shoes was quite expensive. It's okay. How about this? I'll buy you a new pair. Su Nianhua looked up and calmly told the driver in front of him. Old Tang, go to the mall first. Su Nianhua. Li Dali was fuming with anger. He pointed at the man opposite him who treated his kindness like a bad person and shouted angrily. If you continue to ignore the team's warning, we really have to kneel down to you. Chapter 84. Well, there's no need. Your concert is more important. Yi Huanyan glanced at Li Dali. From his anxious expression and his crazy complaints just now, she knew that Su Nianhua had sneaked out without telling everyone. And the concert was indeed a matter of urgency. Thank God, thank God. Miss Yi, you're really a good person. Li Dali's expression changed, and the way he looked at Yi Huanyan suddenly became much gentler. Then what about your shoes? Su Nianhua was wholeheartedly worried about Yi Huanyan's shoes. Li Dali took a deep breath. There are so many group dances at your concert. I'll lend you a pair. Su Nianhua looked at Yi Huanyan, as if asking for her opinion. There was indeed not much time left. If he did not go to the concert, the organizers would really go crazy. Miss Yi, come with us. Now that the fans are following us, we can't guarantee that we won't be surrounded by fans when we get off the bus. Why don't we watch the concert together? I'll leave you a seat in the infield. Li Dali looked at Yi Huanyan with a pleading expression. If Miss Yi did not go, who knew what kind of trouble would happen at tonight's concert? Yi Huanyan was a bit conflicted. She looked down at her bare left foot and said with a wry smile, I'm fine. She was obviously riding a tiger and could not get off. The concert was full of people. A video of reporters chasing Su Nianhua near the revolving restaurant had quickly spread on the internet, setting off a round of discussions about the women around Su Nianhua. In the suite of the Shanghai International Hotel, Ling Han had just come out of the shower and turned on the TV. He saw a gossip news broadcast, and his eyes were slightly attracted. At this time his phone rang. Hello. A heavy voice sounded in the room. A white towel was draped over his shoulder, and his bony fingers touched the remote control to lower the volume of the TV. President Ling, there's news about the investigation last time. Xiaomu's voice sounded from the phone, and it was a bit serious. What do you mean? Madam Ling's death in a car accident was confirmed to be not an accident but man-made. The driver who caused the accident is a distant cousin of the Yi family. It took a long time to find out. Back then, his daughter was sick and the surgery fee was too high. He had no choice but to beg Jiang Mailan, but there was no one in the Yi family anymore. At first, Jiang Mailan didn't help him, but later on, someone saw Jiang Mailan go to the driver's house with their own eyes. Who saw it? Under the dim yellow light, Ling Han's face was slightly pale. I just contacted the driver's ex-wife yesterday and showed her a photo of Jiang Mailan. She said that she had seen her once at home. According to the bank records, Jiang Mailan gave the driver, who caused the accident, a large sum of money and sent his daughter to the hospital for treatment. The day of the surgery was the day of your mother's accident. Later on, the operation failed. The driver looked for Jiang Mailan, but Jiang Mailan moved with her daughter. He didn't have a way to contact her. Later on, he got addicted to alcohol, and his wife ran away with someone else. Now he's living a poor life. He goes crazy whenever his daughter is mentioned. President Ling, do you still need to find other evidence? President Ling. On the other end of the phone, Xiao Mu stared at the phone screen. He didn't know when the call ended. He frowned and thought about what was going to happen, but his eyes were full of guilt. In the hotel suite, the image on the TV flashed. The host of the gossip show was reporting the daily news. The scene changed to a revolving restaurant on the side of the Shanghai River. A man was running with a woman in a white dress on her head while being chased by a crowd. At the end of the scene, the man was carrying her in a princess carry. The famous singer Su Nianhua is holding a concert in Shanghai today. Fans gathered in Shanghai found that Su Nianhua was dating a woman before the concert. The two seemed to be having an ambiguous conversation. I don't know if the fans and passers-by will still believe what they see. The female host's voice was a bit sharp. Even though the volume was lowered to the lowest, It was still too harsh in the quiet room. It was as if every word was poked out by a needle. A pair of eyes were filled with coldness as they stared at the content on the screen. One hand gripped the phone tightly, and the veins on the back of the hand bulged. The next second, with a bang, the black phone hit the TV screen, and the phone suddenly shattered into pieces. Mixed with the light on the TV screen, the phone flashed crazily twice in the dark night, as if it was making a final struggle. In the end, it died together with the TV, losing the light and being completely immersed in darkness. The culprit was holding the corner of the table, and the trembling force made the whole table shake slightly. Only the sound of heavy breathing was left in the air. The concert venue was filled with thunderous cheers, and pink light sticks converged into a sea of flowers. Yi Huanyan sat below the stage and waved the light sticks with the fanatical fans in the VIP area around her. After thousands of cheers, she finally ushered in the explosive sound of music. The figure that appeared on the elevator drove the thousands of fans in the venue to celebrate. Although Yi Huanyan hadn't heard any of Sun Yanhua's songs, the fans' appeal was infinite. She bloomed the most sincere smile and sent encouragement to the figure on the stage. 3 hours of singing and dancing, the perfect performance of each song, made the fans go crazy. During one of the audience interactions, the spotlight in the audience area flashed. All the fans stood up from their seats and waved desperately, hoping that the spotlight and camera would be pointed at their position, as if they were waiting for God's blessing. Backstage, Li Dali looked at the audience from afar, and a trace of meaning flashed in his eyes. While looking at the position where the camera swept across on the big screen, he whispered into the headset, "Camera, camera, focus the spotlight on the long-haired woman wearing a beige coat in the VIP area, row 3, seat 6. Bang! The stage exploded, and Yi Huanyan's face slowly appeared in the smoke. Under the envious and jealous gazes, Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. She looked up at the big screen and pointed to her nose in disbelief. "Okay, it's this beautiful lady." On the stage was a famous male host from Shanghai. He smiled politely in the direction of Yi Huanyan. "Spotlight, please dim the light a little. Don't scare our beautiful fan, thank you." Sun Yanhua stood beside the host and looked at Yi Huanyan. A trace of surprise flashed in his eyes, and he glanced at Li Dali's position on the left side of the stage. He saw Li Dali making a gesture to cheer him on. "Next is the private interaction time between this fan and our brother Hua. This fan must seize this opportunity." The microphone was passed from the front row to Yi Huanyan's hand. With so many people looking at her, she was a little nervous, and the sweat on her palms slightly wet the microphone. Chorus, chorus. Hug, hug, hug. Ah, ah. The fans in the audience crazily shouted their innermost desires, and Yi Huanyan was a little at a loss. On the stage, Sun Yanhua's sharp eyes glanced at Li Dali's seat. Then he lowered his head and touched the microphone on his cheek. He raised his head and smiled, trying to smooth things over. "Why don't we tell you the truth?" Chapter 85. A familiar voice suddenly sounded on the stage, and the fans gradually quieted down. Sun Yanhua's voice echoed throughout the stadium. It was gentle and delicate, and it was more touching than any other concert. Hugs, sing-along, or something else that everyone has played before. Did a fan leave a message saying that Brother Hua's body belongs to everyone? At this point, Sun Yanhua winked at the audience, and the audience burst into laughter. That means that no matter who monopolizes it, many sisters will be unhappy. For example, during the last concert, many sisters wrote to me crying, saying that I was a heartless man. Another burst of laughter. Yi Huanyan also laughed, and her expression relaxed a lot. "Why don't we have a spiritual exchange today?" Sun Yanhua tilted his head and bloomed his signature smile at the fans. "There are many sisters here, and all of you should have someone you love. Some of them are by your side now. Some of them you love very much. Some of them love you very much. Or some of them you are very lucky to love each other. And some of them are in the bottom of your heart that you used to love, or some of them that you let go of, but still think of occasionally." His voice had a kind of magic, And it made the fans who were shouting crazily a few seconds ago feel emotional under the influence of this moment. And Yi Huanyan was no exception. Whether it was in the past or in the present, we used to love seriously. Should we say something to the people we loved that we never had the chance to say? There were already many fans nodding gently. Then, why don't we have a few interactions today? Brother Hua will give you this opportunity to say such heartfelt words to the people you loved, and the people you love now. The host didn't do anything at all. He only saw the fans nodding crazily, and some even had tears in their eyes. It was probably because they thought of the past, and they couldn't stop crying. Su Nianhua's gaze fell on Yi Huanyan. This fan, do you agree? Yi Huanyan glanced at the girl next to her who was crying her heart out, and then nodded. The fanaticism dispersed, and a long silence followed. I once had a person that I really liked. Like many people, it was the first time I knew what it felt like to like someone at the age of 17 or 18. Later we broke up because of reality. I know that he has always blamed himself, and I have also broken down and suffered. I felt that life was hopeless and dark in the middle of the night. At that time, I felt that I would never fall in love with anyone in this life. The so-called true love in this world is all made up by writers. Speaking of this, Yi Huanyan seemed to be tainted with a trace of the emotions of that night. She took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. About half a year later, I started a new life, got to know new people, and started anew in a new environment. The more I immersed myself in the new environment, the less I thought about him. In the end, I couldn't even remember what he looked like. Actually, breaking up is a very common thing. In life, we constantly break up, leave each other, say goodbye to yesterday, and meet different people at different times. Time can heal everything. If you think it can't, it's because it hasn't been long enough, or you haven't met someone who can make you let go of the past. I'm grateful to the person I met later on, who made me truly let go of the past. Yi Huanyan looked at Su Nianhua and smiled. I hope that the boy I loved can also let go of the past. Her words touched people's hearts, and there were fans sobbing softly. Su Nianhua held the microphone, and his voice was gentle. I hope that all the fans present, not present, who support me and like me, can let go of the past that they can't get back. The cheers were mixed with a lot of sobbing, and from the sea of pink glow sticks, it sounded like a wave of thunder. One after another, a few fans who were caught on camera stood up and told their own stories while choking with sobs. There were also some fans who didn't have any stories, but still asked to go on stage to hug and interact. Su Nianhua treated them all meticulously and seriously. After the interaction, it was a lyrical slow song. As the prelude slowly played, the girls around him returned to their frenzy, crying and confessing to the man playing the piano on stage. Yi Huanyan had a faint smile at the corner of her mouth, and she looked gently at the man on stage. When she met him, he was still a boy, proud and cold. Except for his studies in music, he didn't care about anyone else. 10 years later, he returned, with glory and thousands of supporters. He also had a gentle gaze and delicate smile that had been tempered by time, warming many more girls besides her. After the concert, Su Nianhua rushed backstage and called Yi Huanyan before he changed his clothes. Wait for me, I'll send you back. No need, I got a taxi. Su Nianhua suddenly choked. I'm sorry about what happened on stage today. Brotherly acted on his own accord and made you feel awkward. It's okay. I have something to tell you, but it's hard to say it alone. It's good this way. In the future, we'll still be friends. The other end of the phone was silent for a while, and then his gentle voice came, as if he was relieved. Thank you, Yi Huanyan. All the past would be let go. 10 years was too long, cherish the present. Back at the hotel, Yi Huanyan was a little nervous. She didn't know if Ling Han was asleep, and if she explained to him truthfully, would it cause any misunderstanding? She swiped the room card to open the door, but it was dark inside. She felt for the wall and pressed the switch, but there was no response. After a long time, she inserted the room card and turned on the light. Why didn't she insert the room card? Ling Han wasn't in. She went straight to Ling Han's door and knocked twice. Knock, knock, knock. Ling Han, are you in there? She opened the door, but there was no one inside. Strange. She carried her bag and walked toward her room. Suddenly, she caught a glimpse of the TV in the living room from the corner of her eye. There was an obvious crack in the middle of the LCD screen, and the crack spread from the middle like a spider web. It looked like it was about to fall apart. Following the direction of the glass shards, there was a corpse of a phone on the ground. Ling Han's phone. Yi Huanyan's face froze, and she quickly walked over to check. She confirmed that it was this phone that broke the TV. How much strength did it use to make such a big hole in the TV? Something was wrong. Who did it? Yi Huanyan frowned, and immediately took out her phone to call Xiaomu. Hello? Assistant Xiao. Did anything happen during the meeting with President Ling this afternoon? No, I left before dinner. What's wrong? Looking at the smashed phone and TV, Yi Huanyan's heart sank more and more. He's not in the hotel. The hotel's TV is broken, and his phone is also broken on the ground. What's going on? What happened to him? Can you get in touch with him now? The other end of the phone was silent for a few seconds, as if she wanted to say something but hesitated. After a while she said, Secretary, don't worry. I'll contact the hotel staff and ask them. Yi Huanyan's face froze. Xiaomu didn't know either. Chapter 86. I'll look around the hotel and contact the other 2 branches in Shanghai. If I can't find them, we'll call the police. Yi Huanyan's stress response forced her to think of the worst-case scenario. Xiaomu was anxious. Don't look for them. What if something happens in the middle of the night? Stay in the hotel. That's all. I can't stay here. Contact me if you have any news. After saying this, she hung up the phone and left the hotel with her bag. She called all the branches in Shanghai as she walked. Xiaomu looked at the phone and frowned. She remembered what Ling Han said before he left, and her face was filled with embarrassment. Late at night, all the branches in Shanghai were closed, and no one could get through. Yi Huanyan took a taxi to one place after another. When she came out of the last company, the sky was gradually changing, and a large dark cloud was approaching Shanghai. The driver yawned in the car. Miss, are you going home? It's getting late. I have to get off work. Master, please come with me to another place. It's in Jiangpu. What Jiangpu? Miss, are you kidding me? Jiangpu and this place are the 2 ends of Shanghai. If I send you back, it'll be dawn by the time I come back. Master, find someone else. I'm off work. After saying this, the car window rolled up mercilessly, and the car disappeared into the night with a puff of smoke. Yi Huanyan stood at the entrance of the branch, and the tip of her nose was cold. The sudden raindrops were extremely cold, and seemed to be able to corrode her skin. She hurriedly held her bag over her head, and ran to the bus stop nearby to take shelter from the rain. At this time her phone rang. It was Xiaomu. Secretary, where are you? Do you have news of President Ling? There was silence on the other end of the phone. Then I'll go to Jiangpu. Are you crazy? Xiaomu's incredulous voice sounded from the other end of the phone. You want to go to Jiangpu so late? Don't you know that there are factories in the suburbs there? The rain pattered down, and the night bus ran every 20 minutes. In the cold, rainy night, Yi Huanyan's voice was trembling. Could he have been kidnapped? Over the years, Ling Han had acquired a lot of small media companies, and some of them were very aggressive. He had made a lot of enemies, and it was hard to say if there would be people who would do such things in desperation. On the other end of the phone, Xiaomu took a deep breath, and her expression was very unsightly. After hesitating for a long time, she stammered, I just checked the hotel's underground parking lot surveillance footage. Director Ling's car drove to Lan River. Perhaps nothing happened and just rushed back early. Xiqing. Yi Huanyan's expression changed. So, why don't you go back to the hotel first? Where are you? I'll pick you up. When Xiaomu arrived at the bus stop, Yi Huanyan had curled into a ball and was shivering in a corner. He sucked in a breath of cold air and hurriedly got out of the car to take off his coat and put it on her. Why don't you find a place to hide? Get in the car. Assistant Xiao. Yi Huanyan grabbed Xiaomu's sleeve. I have to return to Shi City. Secretary Yi. Come back to the hotel with me first. It's still raining. Can you leave tomorrow morning? I won't be at ease if I don't see him. She looked up at Xiao Mu, and the rain fell down her cheeks. Her eyes were red, and she looked helpless. It's too late. Xiao Mu tilted her head, not daring to look into her eyes. How about tomorrow? Assistant Xiao, lend me the car. I'll go back by myself. Xiao Mu did not know how godly Yi Huanyan's driving skills were, but he really did not know what to do when he saw her stubborn look. The black car disappeared in the rain. He frowned and sighed. His phone flashed. It was a text message from Sheng Anren. It was very blurry because of the rain in the night. Although I don't know what method you used, I really have to thank you. He just called me. Everyone had something they were obsessed with. Sheng Anren was obsessed with the happiness in her fantasy. Ling Han was obsessed with an irreversible past. And Yi Huanyan was obsessed with a man who could not open his heart to her. What about her? She was obsessed with a smile on that person's face, even if that smile had nothing to do with her. It took 2.5 hours to drive from Shanghai to Lanjiang City on the highway. It was a relatively safe distance. No one knew what this distance meant to Yi Huanyan, whether it was the speed of life or death. The windshield wipers flapped, blurring her vision. At 4 o'clock in the morning, Yi Huanyan's car drove to the entrance of the community. When she entered the gate, the car hit the stone foundation at the entrance and died with a bang. The security guard in the security room came over with an umbrella to check the situation. The driver's door was stuck next to the gate, so the security guard could only ask about the situation from the passenger's window. The rain grew heavier and drowned out the sound. What happened? The security guard shouted at the top of his lungs. Yi Huanyan waved her hand. She was still in a state of shock as she gestured. I don't know. Try to reverse the car. The security guard leaned over the passenger's window and commanded, start the car first, then reverse the car and go out to have a look. Jin Yin nodded quickly and tried to start the car. A red sports car drove out of the community in the distance, honked from a distance, and turned on the double flash to signal her to turn off the high beam. Yi Huanyan was in a hurry and did not know what to do for a long time. The sports car probably thought that Yi Huanyan was looking for trouble, so it also turned on the high beam. Yi Huanyan could not open her eyes when the lights were turned on, and her movement to start the car suddenly stopped. Seeing this, the security guard hurriedly gestured for the sports car to drive out from the west gate, indicating that there was an accident here. The sports car stopped for a while, reversed on the spot, and then made a beautiful turn in the direction of the west gate. Yi Huanyan's eyes were stagnant, and she could not believe what she had just seen. In the familiar red sports car that her high beam was waiting to shine on, the woman driving was wearing a blue-gray coat, and the red silk nightgown inside could be faintly seen. What surprised Yi Huanyan was that delicate and enchanting face. Who else could it be but Sheng Anren? Why was she here? Why was she wearing her own clothes? Hey, you, what are you doing? The security guard looked at Yi Huanyan in surprise as she climbed from the driver's seat to the passenger's seat. When she pushed open the door, she almost pushed him down. In his yelling, she stumbled into the community, leaving a car with the passenger's door open and a mess on the ground. Deep in the community, Ling Han's villa. Beep, beep, beep. The combination lock at the door fell down. A wet fur shawl fell on the porch, and the woman's coat was scattered on the floor of the living room, which had been wet by the rain. The dripping wet traces spread all the way from the living room to the stairs, and followed those traces to the master bedroom. The 1/3 of the master bedroom belonged to Yi Huanyan. The big room was illuminated by the lightning outside the window, and then there was a loud bang, and the thunder was deafening. She held the handrail of the stairs, and struggled to support her body, to climb up step by step. Although this absurd reality had been so naked in front of her, she still did not give up, and wanted to see it with her own eyes. Chapter 87. The room was filled with the smell of obscenity. In the bedroom that used to belong to her, the first thing she saw was the big white bed in the middle. The pure white sheets were crumpled into a ball and dragged at the end of the bed. In the middle of the bed, There was a pool of ambiguous water stain. It was like a beast that taunted her and stopped her footsteps. She tried to look up and saw a black lace G-string lying on the pillow. The woman's skirt and blouse were all crumpled. It could be seen that there was a big battle in this place just now. A trace of pain flashed in her eyes. Her eyes slowly moved to the sofa at the end of the bed. The man was wearing gray velvet pajamas with a loose belt around his waist. There was a cigarette between his fingers. The smoke from the flickering cigarette, but was curling up, making his face a little blurred. Yi Huanyan's sudden appearance didn't seem to shock him. He didn't even look up. He took a puff of the cigarette and slowly exhaled. Then, he turned his head to look out of the window. It seemed that after a long time, he found a person standing at the door. He faintly greeted her. "It's raining so heavily. Why are you here?" Yi Huanyan's body trembled slightly in the dark. Her voice was a little faint, but it was very clear in this strange atmosphere. "I saw Xing Anren just now in the community." "You saw Anren?" He interrupted her and turned around in surprise. Then, with a calm expression, he lightly lit the cigarette and flicked the ash away as he said faintly, "Don't worry. After all, you haven't moved out yet. There are too many things left here. It's a little troublesome to be found by her, so I didn't let her stay overnight." Speaking of this, he paused slightly. "By the way, Amren's clothes are dirty. I asked the servant to give her an unworn one from you. You don't mind, do you?" She felt as if something was taking away her strength from her body. Her legs couldn't move, as if they were stuck to the same place. He made love with another woman in this bed that used to belong to her. He dirted her sheets and quilt cover. He also let that woman wear her clothes. He asked her, "Do you mind?" Her face was stiff, and a bitter smile gradually appeared at the corner of her mouth. Should she say that she didn't mind? Did she not mind this woman wearing her clothes or sleeping with her man? Or did she not mind this man in front of her asking her if she wanted to start over last night? In less than a day, he slept with another woman on her bed. Her expression gradually became pained, but there was still a trace of unwillingness. "Last night, you were the one who asked me if I wanted to start over." Her voice trembled with the sound of the north wind whistling through the window. "Chi!" A scornful laugh came from the darkness. His tall figure stood up from the sofa, leaving behind a long shadow as he gradually approached Yi Huanyan. He took a deep drag of the cigarette, then casually threw the butt away and raised his hand to pinch her chin. Smoke filled the air as he exhaled spirals of smoke from his mouth. Mixed with the thick smell of alcohol, it sprinkled all over her face. "Cough, cough, cough, cough." She coughed violently, her facial features scrunched together, and the intense pain from her chin woke her up instantly. She could hear the sound of his breathing. "Yeah, how about starting over and changing the way we play?" She was uncomfortable from the smoke, so she forced herself to open her eyes. What entered her sight was his scornful gaze, which was no different from those nights when he looked at her. In this short period of time, all the warmth, like a dream bubble, was instantly destroyed. Her brain stopped working, and before she could figure out what she had done wrong, she was flipped onto the bed in the next second. Her lips were fiercely covered, and the pain of being bitten felt like it was going to devour her marrow, violently hitting every nerve in her body. "Don't touch me. Ugh." When she thought about what had just happened on the bed, she opened her eyes with tears flowing down her face. From the corner of her eyes, she caught a glimpse of the black lace thong on the pillow, and her heart felt nauseous. She didn't know where she got the strength, but she pushed Ling Han away and lay on the side to retch violently. Her beige dress was a little dazzling under the dim yellow light. Ling Han looked at her twitching shoulders and thought about the news today, and his face became even more serious. "You feel disgusted? Aren't you disgusted to see other men dressed like this?" Yi Huanyan covered her chest, her eyes were wet, and she choked with her last bit of strength. "I'm innocent. If you're angry because of this reason, I have nothing to say. But I saw you and Xing Anren doing such a disgusting thing in my bed with my own eyes. You can't pour this dirty water on my head. Do you feel hurt by your appearance?" Ling Han sneered. "Do you think I care about your innocence? You even sent the first time to my bed so easily. What self-esteem do you have?" Hearing this, her tears couldn't stop anymore. Her vision was completely blurred, and his vicious words were in her ears, shattering all the dreams and happiness of these days. Maybe I gave you some fantasy these days? Have you forgotten who you are? Do you really think you're Mrs. Ling? Don't you think it's ridiculous? Yi Huanyan gritted her teeth, and the tears that should have been shed flowed out. She sobbed and looked at the man. Since you've never forgiven me, why? Why all this time? Why did you say those words last night? I've tasted the taste of you in bed. I'm tired of it. I want to change away. Ling Han raised the corner of his mouth and leaned over slightly, looking at her as if he was admiring a work of art. I've seen enough of the feeling of stepping on the ground. I want to see what kind of person you are when you're lifted up high, and then fall down, for whatever reason. He laughed and his fingers brushed across her cheek. I think it's very interesting now. Yi Huanyan bit her lips, and a trace of blood spread on her lips. Her eyes were almost red as if they were filled with blood. She stared at Ling Han, not daring to believe that he would say such a thing. What? You don't believe me? Ling Han sneered, and his hand went up her leg and under her skirt. Her whole body was cold, but she did not resist. Her eyes seemed to have lost focus, and she looked at him in a daze. Her body did not have any reaction, and her limbs were stiff, and her face was stiff. She was like a puppet lying on the big white bed lifeless. Ling Han furrowed his brows and coldly threw down a sentence. Disappointing. After a bam sound, 1/3 of the big master bedroom returned to silence. There was a deathly silence. In the messy and obscene atmosphere of the room, Yi Huanyan's body slid down the bed little by little, and finally sat on the carpet beside the bed. A thunder in the rainy night resounded through the sky, and the room suddenly burst into tears. It was heart-wrenching, and mixed with the sound of the heavy rain, it was like a sadness that went deep into the bone marrow. This world had never cared for her, and everything returned to its original point, which was still endless sorrow. Chapter 88. It was raining heavily outside the window. Yi Huanyan sat on the edge of the bed and did not move for a long time. In fact, she really wanted to leave this dirty room, but her body seemed to have been drained. It was as if all her strength had been used up when she opened the door and saw these disgusting things on the ground. In the master bedroom next door, the man held the door frame and clenched his fists. His face was gloomy. Didn't you say you wanted to start over with me? That sentence kept echoing in his mind, and he couldn't get it out of his head. The rumbling of the thunder made the whole night dull and powerless. It was like a warning from fate that made everything tremble. The next morning, when Ling Han came downstairs, Ling Ling told him that Yi Huanyan had left. He frowned and didn't say anything. During breakfast, Ling Ling carefully observed Ling Han's expression. Seeing that he looked normal, she asked hesitantly, "Master, do you want to return Miss Sheng's clothes?" Ling Han looked calm, but his voice was cold. "No, throw it away." Ling Ling was slightly stunned. She nodded hesitantly. Before leaving, Ling Han looked back in the direction of Yi Huanyan's bedroom. His face gradually darkened. In the president's office of Pleasure Group, Ji Xiaoya hummed a song as she punched in at the last second. She greeted the secretaries in the cubicle outside the president's office, then walked into the secretary's office in her high heels. She put down her things and picked up an empty cup on the table to pour some coffee. From the corner of her eye, she saw a black head resting on Yi Huanyan's desk. Her hand trembled, and she almost dropped the cup. "Oh my God! Yin Yin!" She covered her mouth, put down the cup and walked to Yi Huanyan's desk. At this moment, Yi Huanyan heard the sound. She raised her head with difficulty and looked at her with a pair of red and swollen eyes. Her face looked like she was seriously lacking blood. "Morning. Morning, my ass. When did you come back? Look at you." Ji Xiaoya looked at her face in shock. She was stunned. "You didn't sleep here the whole night, did you? What are you doing?" Yi Huanyan sat up straight and forced a smile. "How can I sleep here all night? You're so busy with work. Come back early." Ji Xiaoya had a look of disbelief on her face. Just as she was about to ask more questions, Li Shan from the same department walked to the door and knocked on the glass door of the secretary's office. Secretary Yi, you're really back. Yi Huanyan frowned. Yes, what's the matter? Last night, Assistant Xiao called me and asked me to hand over his follow-up work to you this morning. I came to see if you're back. Last night, Ji Xiaoya stared at Li Shan in confusion. Isn't that so? Li Shan revealed a speechless expression. Yesterday in the middle of the night, I suddenly received a call from Assistant Xiao. My boyfriend questioned me for a long time, saying that there's no reason for a male colleague to call in the middle of the night. A strange expression flashed across Yi Huanyan's face. She combed the stray strands of hair by her temples and said calmly, "The work in Shanghai is urgent. I haven't found a suitable person to be in charge of the company's restructuring, so President Ling kept Assistant Xiao. The Human Resources Department hasn't had time to send out a transfer notice. I think Assistant Xiao was worried that it would be inconvenient for me to come back, so he let you know in advance." I see. Li Shan suddenly understood. Then I'll go prepare the documents. Looking at Li Shan's back, Ji Xiaoya looked back at Yi Huanyan in disbelief. You didn't come back last night, right? Yes. President Ling is back too. Yes. Are you crazy? What work is so urgent? Last night, there were several landslides on the Shanghai-Lanzhou highway. It was such a big storm. Can't you persuade him, or let him come back alone? Ji Xiaoya thought that Yi Huanyan and Ling Han came back together. Yi Huanyan frowned slightly. She wanted to explain, but thinking of Ji Xiaoya's fiery temper, she gave up. If she knew that she drove back by herself, she would be nagged by her for several days. Ling Han came out of the house after breakfast. The red sports car had been waiting at the door for a long time. The window slowly rolled down, revealing a face wearing huge sunglasses. Han, good morning. Her delicate voice was sweet and affectionate. He frowned, and his eyes were a little cold. He glanced at the car. I remember when you left last night. I told you not to come here without my permission. Sheng Anren's face was slightly stiff. She took off her sunglasses embarrassedly, and her voice was a little aggrieved. I didn't go in. I waited for you at the door. But I don't have a job today. I want to send you to work. Can't I? As soon as the voice fell, the door of the passenger seat opened, the car shook slightly, and his faint voice sounded beside him. Let's go. It won't happen again. Well, Sheng Anren's mouth evoked a perfect arc, and all the complacency was shown on her face. A man like Ling Han, who is stared at by so many women every day, as long as she is given a little chance, she can't let it go. Although he always does things beyond her expectations, it doesn't matter. Who doesn't have a little hobby? The secretary of the pleasure group. Yi Huanyan devoted herself to her work, so that she had no time to think about the absurdity of last night. Ji Xiaoya drank tea leisurely, and occasionally glanced at her. She always felt that her state was inexplicably excited, as if she was hiding some kind of excessive excitement. Yin Yan, what's the matter with you? What's the trouble? She asked tentatively. Yes. Yi Huanyan raised her head and handed out 2 documents. Copy these 2 documents if you have time. Ji Xiaoya raised her eyebrows slightly. No problem. After Ji Xiaoya left, there was only the rustling sound of papers flipping in the secretary's office. Qiao Mu's affairs were far more complicated and numerous than Yi Huanyan imagined. Pleasure Media's partner, Chili Film and Television, which had been involved in the post-production of Pleasure Media, had its contract expired this year and had not been renewed. In the contract renewal tracking record, Qiao Mu mentioned that Chili Film and Television seemed to intend to cooperate with Pleasure's competitor, Bale Media. This was the first problem she faced when taking over Qiao Mu's work. Another thing that made her even more difficult was the formulation of the company's collective artist outing plan that Ling Han had given her. With so much work on her, she had to make a choice. Good morning, President Ling, Miss Sheng. President Ling. The voice from outside the door made Yi Huanyan's body stiffen, and she stopped flipping through the documents. It was as if a nerve that had been suppressed had been reactivated. She thought that after the humiliation last night, she would be thoroughly disappointed and would not have any more mood swings. However, When she heard these two people's names mentioned together, her blood still surged in her heart. Good morning, Secretary Yi. Why isn't Secretary Ji here yet? A sweet voice came from the door, as if it was a demonstration. Yi Huanyan raised her head, but her gaze landed on Ling Han. She secretly tightened her grip on the document in her hand, and the paper gradually crumpled into a ball. Sheng Anren frowned and sized her up. Secretary, you doesn't look well today? You didn't sleep well last night. Did you work overtime? Chapter 89. Yi Huanyan was reminded by her voice and came back to her senses. Nothing. Thank you for your concern, Miss Sheng. Ling Han glanced at her and said lightly, Do you have a good relationship with Secretary Yi? Sheng Anren was slightly stunned. She looked at Ling Han's face and tried to find a trace of emotion to remind her to speak appropriately, but failed. She had to be ambiguous. It's just that I usually see him a lot. After all, he is your right-hand man. I still have to give him face to say hello. Ling Han raised a faint sneer at the corner of his mouth. It's just a secretary. How many do you want? Why bother? A trace of doubt flashed in Sheng Anren's eyes. Before she had time to think about it, she saw Ji Xiaoya holding a stack of documents and walking in a hurry with her head down. Thinking of the rumors in the company, her face suddenly turned ugly. That's right. By the way, Han, you still have work to do, so I won't bother you. She pulled her hand out of Ling Han's arm and smiled very cleverly and sensibly. Ling Han nodded slightly and didn't ask much. He went straight into the office. Ji Xiaoya was holding the documents. As soon as she heard the sound, she raised her head and saw Sheng Anren, who she always hated, wearing sunglasses and walking towards her. Her insufferably arrogant look was really disgusting. Good morning, Secretary Ji. Sheng Anren did not hide the falseness in her smile. Ji Xiaoya shuddered and said coldly, Early in the morning, there's a smell of fox. Sheng Anren's face darkened. He was even more certain that Ji Xiaoya had an affair with Ling Han. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sneer. Secretary Ji, you have to be careful when you speak. Do you think that your President Ling will like a brash and domineering little girl like you? Ji Xiaoya followed her eyes and looked at her flat chest. She suddenly got angry. You're all grown up. You're a fox. Hearing this, Sheng Anren raised her eyelids slightly, looking high and mighty. I don't know how Han likes you when you are so barbaric. Who are you calling barbaric? Ji Xiaoya glared at her and gritted her teeth. She looked like she was about to fight. I'm talking about you. She walked past Ji Xiaoya. As she adjusted her sunglasses, she deliberately raised her elbow and hit her in the chest. Amidst Ji Xiaoya's exclamation, she directly scattered the photocopied documents in her hands all over the floor. You! Stop right there, Xiao Yu. Yi Huanyan came out of the secretary's office and hurriedly grabbed Ji Xiaoya, who looked like she was about to kill someone. What are you doing? That smelly vixen. How dare she deliberately bump into me? While Yi Huanyan was tugging on Ji Xiaoya, her swaying hips had already disappeared from their sight. Yi Huanyan was very pleased with herself. All right, just pick up the things you dropped. I'll help you pick them up. No, Yi Huanyan. Seeing Yi Huanyan squatting down to pick things up, Ji Xiaoya got angry. Looking at Yi Huanyan squatting down to pick things up, she suddenly thought of the scene just now. She questioned, Do you not have a temper? Why did this woman come with Ling Han just now? What exactly happened to you last night? Yi Huanyan paused in the act of picking up the things. She folded the papers and handed them to Ji Xiaoya. Pick them up yourself. I still have something to discuss with Director Ling. Hey! Ji Xiaoya grabbed her arm with concern in her eyes. You have to tell me if there's anything. Don't force yourself. Yi Huanyan had her back to her, and her eyes were slightly red. She hummed in agreement, and then entered the director's office without looking back. Ling Han received a call from Qiaomu as soon as he arrived at the office. The rectification plan for Yusin Media has been issued. I heard that all the departments are prioritizing promoting senior management from within the department. They are very enthusiastic, and their initial resistance is gone. Yes, there will definitely be some people who are restless. Pay more attention. Understood. On the other end of the phone, Xiaomu hesitated for a moment before asking. Director Ling, there was a landslide on the Shanglan line last night, and several places collapsed. I heard that many cars traveling at night were in trouble. Secretary Yi, is she okay? Speaking of this, Ling Han recalled seeing the tow truck from the 4S store at the entrance of the residential area this morning to tow away the car with the very familiar license plate number. His face darkened a bit. His tone was cold. She's fine, but your car was sent to the 4S store for repair this morning. Ah, the person on the other end of the phone exclaimed. How come? I'll inform the finance department to deduct the money from your salary. Director Ling, this. You lent the car yourself, so you have to bear the consequences yourself. Xiaomu still wanted to say something, but Ling Han had already hung up the phone impatiently. A person who could drive a car into a guardrail dared to drive from Shanghai to Lanjiang in the heavy rain last night? There was a knock on the office door, followed by a familiar voice. Director Ling, come in. Ling Han responded faintly and opened the folder in his hand. This morning, Assistant Li handed over Assistant Xiao's follow-up work to me. After weighing the pros and cons, I think it's more important to complete the contract renewal with Chile Media first. Yi Huanyan took a deep breath. So I've been a bit busy recently. Let's leave the plan of the company's artists and staff to the planning department. I don't think I have the time. Oh! Ling Han looked up, his eyes burning like torches. You don't have the time? Yi Huanyan felt uncomfortable under his gaze, so she lowered her head to avoid his gaze. Yes, about the contract renewal. The contracts of several artists in the company have also expired, and we need to discuss the contract renewal. Then put all these things into the plan of the trip. Yi Huanyan looked up abruptly and stared at Ling Han in a daze. You mean we should send them invitations? But the company had a tradition of inviting partners to participate in the trip plan. But these people were usually very busy. When they received the invitation, most of them would ask their secretaries to call back to thank them, and then they would go back to their own work. Very few would actually participate. Don't talk to me about buts. I said that all artists and staff must participate this time. So you must invite these clients and artists who want to renew their contracts. When you work, it will be the same. Twice the effort and half the result. Twice the effort and half the result. Yi Huanyan's face froze. He was clearly making things difficult for her. If you can't do these things, I can ask someone else to do it. I think Secretary Ji has been very free recently. Let me do it. Yi Huanyan gritted her teeth and quickly agreed. What I mean is Secretary Ji will help you complete this task. Ling Han glanced at her with disdain. If you can't even do such a small thing, you don't have to come to work before the end of the year. We will do it. Ever since she came out of the CEO's office, Yi Huanyan's face had been tense. Ling Han knew that Ji Xiaoya's family background was not good. Even though she had such a high salary every month, she sent most of it home. That was why she lived in such an old-fashioned neighborhood with bad security. However, she had a carefree personality and didn't know how to spend money. After sending money home, she spent all the rest. If she lost this job, wouldn't she go hungry? Chapter 90. The photocopies are on your desk, Yin Yan. Ji Xiaoya stuffed a potato chip into her mouth and pointed at Yi Huanyan's desk. Yi Huanyan came back to her senses and responded. She returned to her seat and flipped through 2 pages of messy photocopies. She frowned and said, Xiaoyu, you'll have to complete the group trip with me. No problem. I'm very free anyway. If there's anything to do, just leave it to me. I'll do it. It's not just about the photocopies. I'm afraid you'll have to meet some clients separately with me. Meet clients? Ji Xiaoya was nervous. She suddenly crushed the potato chip in her hand, and the crumbs fell to the floor. The corners of her mouth twitched. Yin Yan, are you kidding me? She hated talking to businessmen the most. When she first joined the company's planning department, it was because the planning department only needed to come up with proposals and ideas. It didn't need to have too many personnel disputes like other departments. Yi Huanyan had no choice but to repeat Ling Han's order. She looked at Ji Xiaoya's shocked face and pursed her lips. If I could do it on my own, I wouldn't ask you to do it. After all, he's the one who wants to make things difficult for me. It has nothing to do with you. Ji Xiaoya finally closed her mouth and thought quickly. Wait a minute. He's making things difficult for you. Why is he making things difficult for you again? Didn't you just get along well with each other? Damn it. Last night. Thinking about what happened last night, Yi Huanyan covered her chest and suddenly felt disgusted. She turned around and ran in the direction of the bathroom. Ji Xiaoya was stunned for a few seconds. She threw down the potato chip box and ran after her. Are you okay? She helped to pat Yi Huanyan's back. I'm fine. I just thought about what happened last night and felt a little disgusted. Leaning against the washstand in the bathroom, Yi Huanyan's face flashed with a trace of pain. You may not believe me, but even after seeing what happened last night, I still refused to give up. Ji Xiaoya frowned. She didn't know what to say. She could only hold her cold hand tightly. It doesn't matter. We are sisters. I will help you. Don't you just want to chase us away? How could it be that easy? Isn't it just a few clients? What's so difficult about settling them? But Ling Han only gave us 3 days to prepare. The planning department needed a month to prepare, but Ling Han only gave her 3 days. It was obvious that he wanted her and Ji Xiaoya to pack up and leave. 3 days. Ji Xiaoya almost bit her tongue. The corners of her mouth twitched. How ruthless. Back in the office, Yi Huanyan flipped open a document on the table and placed it in front of Ji Xiaoya. There are a total of 12 important clients. Besides the 4 who are overseas, we have to invite the remaining 8. Besides these, there are also 19 A-list and B-list artists in the company. Oh my God, those little foxes and those old foxes. I don't want to deal with any of them. Ji Xiaoya hugged her head. She felt that she had encountered the biggest disaster of her life. Do you believe it? I wasn't even this nervous when I took the art exam. Then do you think it's harder to get the artists or the clients? You can choose one. You can start working in the afternoon. They're both difficult. How can I not choose? You can also try to find a job before the end of the year. Ji Xiaoya's face stiffened. Don't joke around. Which company would dare to offend Ling Han without a proper reason? If I leave here, I'll be unemployed. I'll choose an artist. I'll choose this Guan Nai. I'll go look for this Guan Nai in the afternoon. Are you sure? Guan Nai is famous for her bad temper. She's a rising star. She even dares to look down on Sheng Anren. I know, but I think the others are even harder to deal with. Ji Xiaoya spread her hands. I choose Guan Nai. I'll take this Guan Nai. If I can't get her, I'll take her surname. Yi Huanyan sighed helplessly and handed Guan Nai's information to her. Take a good look. Remember to cater to her interests. In the afternoon, Ji Xiaoya set off to lobby the artists after lunch. Yi Huanyan still had to stay in the secretary's office to deal with the secretary's work. She could only take out the client list and analyze it one by one in her free time. Today, all the departments in the company seemed to have made an appointment. All the documents were sent up at once. Even the financial statements, which had been delayed for several days, were sent up in advance today. When it was time to get off work, Yi Huanyan finished reading the last proposal. She hammered her waist and sent the proposal into the office. Perhaps the knock on the door was too light to be heard inside. She opened the door and saw Ling Han sleeping on the desk. Almost all the documents piled up on the desk had been dealt with. She sighed silently in her heart. Ling Han's extraordinary work efficiency had indeed made her feel powerless. It was not something that an ordinary person could do. She was already having a headache just reviewing the basic data of the documents, and what he needed to see was the question of whether the data was real or not. Ling Han was awakened by the weight on his shoulder. The defense system in his mind automatically activated, and he instantly grabbed a hand on his shoulder. Following Yi Huanyan's cry of surprise, he frowned and the suit jacket that was half draped over his shoulders fell to the ground beside his feet. He frowned and shook off Yi Huanyan's hand. What are you doing? Yi Huanyan was pushed back a few steps by the force of him shaking off her. She staggered and held onto the corner of the table to stabilize herself. She held her wrist that was hurting and said in pain, "Seeing that you were asleep, I was just afraid that you would catch a cold." Ling Han held his forehead and glanced at her coldly. "You don't have to do such useless things. What did you come in for? The planning department has revised the documents. Just leave them there." His attitude was cold and stiff. Yi Huanyan stood there for a few seconds and walked a few steps before turning back. "Have you not recovered from your cold?" Ling Han's fingers paused on the cover of the document. After a few seconds of silence, his cold voice rang out in the room without any warmth. "Secretary Yi, instead of worrying about my cold, why don't you worry about whether you can make it to the end of the year? A smart person would have already contacted the headhunter company by now." "Oh right, I've already asked Lingling to pack your things. Since you don't want to go back to the old mansion, I don't want Grandma to worry too much about me. You can go back to where you used to live after work." Yi Huanyan's face sank bit by bit. Her voice trembled. "You want me to leave home?" It was only now that she realized that this time, Ling Han didn't just want to make things difficult for her. He really wanted her to pack her things and leave this place. "Why? That's not your home, Secretary Yi. You're just a secretary in the company. In your original home, you're just a burden that Jiang Milan brought along. You have nothing to do with the Ling family. And now, I feel that no matter where I am, I don't want to see you again." "Why?" "I'm tired of it." Ling Han looked up, his deep eyes bottomless. "No matter what it is, I'm tired of your body." Chapter 91. Before she got off work, Yi Huanyan received a call from Ji Xiaoya. She didn't listen to what was said on the other end of the line. After she hung up, she reached out and hailed a cab. "Miss, where are you going?" "Jinjiang Court." She didn't believe that Ling Han was such a heartless person. When she returned to Ling Han's villa, she looked at the empty room she lived in. Her heart felt empty. Everything that belonged to her had been packed away. Lingling looked like she wanted to say something but stopped. After hesitating for a while, she had no choice but to speak. "Miss Yi, when young master left this morning, he said, to pack your things and you have to move out." She held onto the door frame and forced a smile. "I know. If you don't mind, I would like to walk around. You young master might come back late today. Why don't you have dinner before you leave? I'll go cook now. It's not too late." "It's okay. You should rest. I'll leave in a while." Lingling looked at the dejected figure and sighed helplessly. Why did the young master treat Miss Yi like this with his unpredictable personality? Yi Huanyan knew that Ling Han had made up his mind to let her go this time. He didn't throw a tantrum at her and didn't show any emotions. In his eyes, she could only see disgust. Her hand touched the bed that she had slept on. It was pure white and flawless. New bedsheets had been changed. But why could she still smell the scent of another woman in the air? It made her stomach churn. She held her chest and walked to Ling Han's bedroom. The nausea in her stomach gradually calmed down. Ling Han's room was cold. The walls were dark blue, and the sheets were dark gray. It was like a room in the deep sea. She felt stuffy as soon as she entered. She took a deep breath and felt a little better. She didn't dare to stay for too long, and turned to leave. From the corner of her eye, she suddenly saw the safe by the bed. It wasn't closed. She frowned and hesitated for a while before deciding to close it for him. Maybe there were some important confidential documents inside. When her fingers touched the door of the safe, her eyes froze. There was only one open black suede box in the cupboard. The lid was turned to one side, revealing a palm-sized piece of white napkin. In the middle of the napkin was a sketch of a blue character drawn with a ballpoint pen. That person had an unnatural smile on his face. His face was a little stiff and angular, and his eyes were dark and bottomless. Although he put on a sullen expression, there was a trace of doting in his eyes. Many years ago, when she was about to take the art examination, Jiang Milan and Ling Dongming were on a business trip and were not at home. She begged him and dragged him to a small restaurant for a meal. "Big brother Ling Han, my teacher said that I'm very talented in drawing, especially sketching people. so you don't have to worry too much about my exams. You're the one who's worried. Of course not. You've already said that sentence 3 times. But it's really what teacher said. My character sketches will definitely pass. The 4th time, Yi Huanyan lowered her head and was a little dejected. Her originally excited expression disappeared. Okay, to be honest, my teacher said that my character sketches are very bad, and I can't capture the charm of the person. Ling Han, who was sitting opposite her in casual clothes, glanced at her indifferently. So, if you can't pass this year, then you can take the exam next year. What's the big deal? But then I'll have to wait another year. Wait for what? Uncle Ling said that he can marry you after graduation. Facing Ling Han's puzzled gaze, Yi Huanyan covered her mouth. No, nothing. Do you want me to draw for you? Uncle Ling said that you're very good at drawing. No. Objection overruled. Anyway, sit here. I'll be quick. Yi Huanyan giggled and raised her arm. Boss, lend me a pen. 8 years have passed in a flash. He still keeps a sketch portrait from 8 years ago? Yi Huanyan couldn't believe it. She thought of the photo she found in his office before. She felt that it couldn't be something to humiliate a person. Ling Han, what are you thinking? A faded diary at the head of the bed attracted her attention. She frowned, and her fingers involuntarily touched the open book. It was obvious that it had been there for some years. It was a lace design, which didn't seem to belong to a man. Is it a woman's thing? Outside the villa, a red sports car stopped behind the green plants in the distance. Behind the windshield, a delicate face was hidden under the gray fur vest. Sheng Amren frowned and stared at the door of Ling Han's villa. She was more and more confused. Last night was the first time she went to Ling Han's residence. She deliberately wet her clothes because she didn't want to leave. Unexpectedly, there was an unexpected gain. Why are there women's coats and pajamas in Ling Han's house? It's still brand new. The style of the coat is completely the clothes worn by women in the workplace. She came here in the morning and met Ling Han, but she didn't find anything strange. She came again in the afternoon. The woman who had just entered was obviously Ling Han's secretary Yi Huanyan. She frowned. Wasn't it Ji Xiaoya, who had an affair with Ling Han? Yi Huanyan had been in for a while. She couldn't bear it. Her fingers touched the door switch. At this time, a black car slowly drove into the community and stopped at the door of the villa. Ling Han's figure got out of the car, handed over the bag in his hand to the maid who came out to greet him, and then pulled the tie around his neck and walked into the house. Sheng Amren's face was stiff, and she slowly withdrew her fingers. Compared with figuring out the relationship between Yi Huanyan and Ling Han, it's more important not to violate Ling Han's orders. In the living room, Ling Ling put away Ling Han's coat and hesitantly looked upstairs. Ling Han's eyes fell on the high-heeled shoes at the entrance and his face sank. Yi Huanyan is here? Ling Ling's face was stiff, and she quickly covered it up. Miss Yi seems to have left something here, so she came back to get it. What did she have? Why did she leave it here? Ling Han looked up and saw that the door of the master bedroom was open. A trace of anger climbed up his eyebrows. He pulled off his tie and threw it on the sofa and strode upstairs. The door of the master bedroom was half open, and the dim light inside faintly came through. Yi Huanyan's vision was getting blurrier and blurrier. She held the edge of the diary and read every word in it over and over again in disbelief. I know the relationship between that woman and Dongming, and I also know that Dongming only has guilt for me. If there is no guilt, I'm afraid there is only boredom, right? In fact, it's very good. I don't intend to make a fuss. Honor is back. No matter what, Honor is his son. But she asked to meet me. I didn't think that I was so cowardly to let this woman think that I can voluntarily abdicate. It's really ridiculous. Her fingertips rubbed over the 2 words Honor, and her eyes were full of tears. Yi Huanyan had never thought that her mother, a woman who was fierce and resolute but kind and gentle in her bones, would interfere in someone else's family, and even do it so brazenly. Chapter 92. What are you doing? A sullen voice resounded throughout the room. Yi Huanyan's hand trembled, and the diary slipped from her hand. It fell to the ground with a muffled sound. The diary, which was already open, was now in pieces in front of her eyes. As he opened the door, the wind blew through the room, raising pieces of the past that she did not dare to look at directly. That was the naked and cruel truth. It was also the reason why Ling Han's attitude towards her had been so unpredictable for so long. She should have thought of it long ago. She should have thought of it long ago. She should have thought of why he always liked to compare her to herself, even after Jiang Milin had passed away for so long. She had heard such words countless times, and should have thought of it long ago. The figure at the door walked to the bed, and stared at her coldly. Her face stiffened, and the tears in her eyes fell like pearls from a broken string. She hurriedly avoided his gaze, and squatted down to pick up the scattered pieces of paper. She was incoherent and humble. "I'm sorry, I'll pick them up. I'll pick them up now." She was sorry. She was the one who had let him down. It turned out that she was really the one who had let him down. "There's no need. I think if my mother was still alive, she wouldn't want you to touch her things." Yi Huanyan's fingers paused slightly, and she said mechanically, "I'm sorry. You've read the diary, haven't you?" The voice from above her head was cold. The condescending attitude was very arrogant, but it was so natural. She squatted on the ground. Her legs and feet were numb, and her nerves seemed to have become sluggish. She seemed to be able to feel the blood in her body coagulating bit by bit. Her heart was beating very slowly, and her vision was blurry. She seemed to be unable to make a sound from her throat. "Since you know, hurry up and get lost." She gripped the yellowed paper in her hand tightly. Under such circumstances, she realized that there was still a trace of unwillingness in her heart. Her voice trembled. "You're treating me like this because my mother interfered in the marriage between Uncle Ling and your mother?" A trace of gloominess flashed across Ling Han's brows. "Don't forget, you asked for it that night. I can apologize on behalf of my mother, but that's the matter of the previous generation. What does it have to do with us?" Yi Huanyan held the diary and forced herself to raise her head, as if this was the only way she could convince herself. "My mom said that we have to look forward. I'm very sorry about this, but..." "No buts. Just leave. I don't want to see you again." Ling Han interrupted her and said impatiently, "I'm not interested in you. You've already repaid what you deserve. But you still have the sketch I drew for you, the one from 8 years ago. You still have my photo. Ling Han, do you dare to say that you don't have me in your heart?" Yi Huanyan held the napkin in her other hand. She was unwilling to accept this. She knew that Ling Han had her in his heart. Even if Jiang Milin was a mistress back then, even if her mother had interfered in this man's family, she had already suffered on behalf of her mother. Now, did he want her to leave? She couldn't. Ever since she was young, Jiang Milin had taught her to reflect on herself and not take responsibility for other people's mistakes. That was the behavior of a saint, and it would only make her unhappy for the rest of her life. Ling Han's gaze froze on the sketch. The wind howled outside the window, and there seemed to be a storm in his eyes. The piece of paper was torn to pieces in front of Yi Huanyan's eyes, just like the photo. "It's just a piece of paper. How much weight do you think it has? Yi Huanyan, you think too highly of yourself." Upon hearing this, she heaved a sigh of relief as she looked at the pieces of paper flying in the air. She was terrifyingly calm. "Go ahead and tear it. I know you have me in your heart. So what if you tear it to pieces? I'm not leaving. I don't care if you want me to stay to atone for my mother's sins or torture me. I'm not leaving. Even if your mother is still alive, she definitely doesn't want you to be troubled by their matters." Ling Han's eyes gradually turned red. He lifted up the cold and scary woman on the carpet and held her so tightly that she almost couldn't breathe. "You want to atone for Jiang Milin's sins? What do you mean by that? How much do you know?" Yi Huanyan's face gradually turned green, but she gritted her teeth and refused to say a word. "Since you feel that these mistakes can only fall on me, no matter what it is, I'm willing to accept it." Her body flew through the air, and under his enormous strength, she fell onto the bed. It did not hurt, but her internal organs were knocked to the point that she almost suffocated. She gritted her teeth in pain, unwilling to let out a weak cry of alarm, and this action angered Ling Han. Who do you think you are? Other than making love to me in bed, what else can you accept? His breathing was very heavy, and it swept across his neck, leaving behind a shiver. Both of their chests rose and fell violently. As they rose and fell, they were pressed together, then separated and pressed together again. Yi Huanyan gritted her teeth and gripped the blanket under her. Every word was very clear in the dark night. Whatever. As long as you want it, I'll give it to you. I'll even give you my life. Ling Han stared at her coldly. His red eyes were filled with anger. It was in this anger that his gaze swept across the bed under him. He suddenly sneered and leaned down to whisper in her ear. Then, under her terrified and shocked gaze, a pair of hands tore open her shirt mercilessly. In the mess in the room, in the long-accumulated resentment, in her messy cries, he wanted her ruthlessly again and again. Until her entire body went limp, until her moans drowned out the howling wind outside the window, until her tears dried up, and even her breathing could affect the pain all over her body. The wave-like pain gradually numbed her senses. She lay on the bed like a broken doll, looking at the man beside the bed in fear. His shoulders were very wide, as if they could support her world, but his shoulders were not her home. Her mind replayed the scene of him panting softly in her ear before the storm. Jiang Milan couldn't wait to take you over. So she couldn't even wait for the last month of my mother's cancer. She created a car accident and deceived everyone. She laid on my mother's bed. Wouldn't she have nightmares? She stared at him in a daze, not daring to believe what she had heard. You don't believe me? This bed belongs to my mother. Every night when I lie down, I remember that the marriage that was interrupted is not just a grudge between the previous generation. It is a stain that was caused by Jiang Milan and Ling Dongming. Even if you don't know about it, it is still a stain that can't be washed away from you. Her expression was numb, and her grip on the blanket gradually loosened. There was no fluctuation in her tone, as if she was asking a question, but also as if she was just stating a statement. Just because I'm Jiang Milan's daughter? Jiang Milan is the murderer who killed my mother. Ling Han slowly turned his head, looking terrifyingly calm. Since you're so unwilling to leave, then stay. This bed will be yours from now on. Her fingers touched the bedsheets, and her body trembled for no reason. She was suddenly awakened, as if there were thorns on the bed. She suddenly turned over and fell off the bed, shrinking into a corner. Chapter 93. How scary was the truth? She would rather not know anything. How deep was the gap that she thought she could cross? She would rather not have tested it. The night was really cold. Are you scared? Then get out of here and never appear in front of me again. When she ran out of the villa with her coat wrapped around her, it started to rain. It was a cold winter night rain, and it fell on her face, body, and everywhere. The taxi slowly drove by. The window rolled down, revealing Ji Xiaoya's face. Yin Yin. Sir, please stop the car. Yin Yin, what's wrong with you? Ji Xiaoya looked at the villa in the distance anxiously and angrily. In the end, she decided to take care of Yi Huanyan first. She pulled the car door and ordered, Sir, please go to the nearest hospital. The yellow taxi disappeared at the entrance of the neighborhood. This scene fell into the red sports car. Behind the windshield, the pair of eyes under the large sunglasses could be seen. Apart from the anger, there was a trace of doubt on her face. She flipped the cover of her phone and dialed a familiar number. Let me ask you something. Where do the two secretaries of Ling Han live? I just saw Secretary Yi come out of Ling Han's house. The two of them? It's so late. Get the documents. Xing Amran muttered doubtfully and frowned at the phone. Don't lie to me. I trust you so much. In the hospital, Yi Huanyan had a low fever. She kept murmuring in a coma. It's my fault, it's my fault. Don't go. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Ji Xiaoya frowned and looked at the pale face on the hospital bed. She took the test report and went to the attending doctor's office. Her lower body is severely torn, and there are bruises all over her body. In the attending doctor's office, the doctor looked at Ji Xiaoya with a frown and pushed the glasses on the bridge of his nose. These don't look like lacerations caused by one night. Is it the same person? What's going on? What's your relationship with the patient? I'm her good friend. Ji Xiaoya's expression was very ugly. She didn't need to think to know who was behind this. This man was really crazy. She stammered in front of the doctor for a long time, but she couldn't say anything. In the end, the doctor became anxious and slammed the table. If you don't explain it clearly, it's not easy for me to do it. Over here, you're not a prostitution organization, right? I see that this girl is very young. I'm going to call the police and let the Women and Children's Union take care of this matter. I don't believe it. Isn't this taking human life as a joke? Ji Xiaoya's heart tightened. She had no choice but to clench her teeth and squeeze out a tear. Dr. Li, my friend's brain isn't very good. She has a boyfriend who has a special hobby. I tried to persuade her to break up with him, but she wouldn't listen. This kind of thing isn't easy to say. You know it too. This time she went overboard. It's really just a simple relationship with a person, not with Aya. That kind of thing has too many tricks. It's easy to get hurt, such as. It was somewhat difficult for her to say this kind of thing, but she was very enthusiastic about talking nonsense and slandering Ling Han. The doctor couldn't listen to her anymore and broke out in a cold sweat. Knock, knock, knock. He was saved by a knock on the door. Come in. Director Li, the family of the patient in bed 2 is here. Do you want to see them? Dr. Li frowned and glanced at Ji Xiaoya. Forget it, forget it. You reminded him to be careful. It's not a joke to kill someone. I'm not going. It's so bad. You young people are really bad nowadays. Ji Xiaoya smiled embarrassedly. She was puzzled. What family member? Thinking of the only person who could be regarded as Yi Huanyan's family member now, she was furious. With a gloomy face, she walked toward the ward in a threatening manner. There were a few nurses gathered outside the ward, chattering nonstop. That man is so tall and has a good figure. How can he be a beast? Haven't you heard of a beast in human clothing? I see that he's wearing a mask tightly. He might be very ugly. Get out of my way. The group of nurses at the door scattered in shock. Ji Xiaoya took a deep breath and pushed open the door. She shouted at the back of the man in front of the bed. You bastard, I'm not going to fight with you today. The man turned his head, only revealing a pair of dark eyes with light eye makeup. A few strands of dark blue hair spilled out from under the cap, exuding a faint blue light under the ward's light. Obviously he wasn't Ling Han. Ji Xiaoya stopped abruptly and stared at the man's eyes for a few seconds. Then she covered her mouth and exclaimed, Su Nianhua? Why are you here? Su Nianhua raised his finger and glanced behind her. Ji Xiaoya immediately understood and turned to open the door. What are you looking at? What's wrong with your hospital? How can you crowd around a patient like this? I'm going to file a complaint. Her words scared the rest of the nurses and made them run away. After shooing the group of people away, she pulled the curtain of the visitation window and covered the single ward tightly. Su Nianhua's delicate voice sounded in the room. Why is she hospitalized? Is she having a fever? I guess so. It's not very serious. She should be fine tomorrow or the day after. Ji Xiaoya pulled a chair and sat on the other side of the bed, distancing herself from Su Nianhua. Yi Huanyan had told her not to get too close to him. This was in front of her. She was still unconscious. She couldn't be too excited, right? Even though she was really excited. I just finished my work and called her. The nurse picked up the phone and found out that she was hospitalized. At this moment, Su Nianhua had already taken off his mask, revealing a face that hadn't had time to remove his makeup. He was probably afraid of being discovered, so he didn't dare to take off his mask. The heater in the ward was on and it was very hot, so at this moment, his cheeks were beaded with sweat. He looked at Ji Xiaoya hesitantly. She should have told you that we've known each other for a long time, right? Ji Xiaoya was slightly stunned. She recalled that at the entrance of the company last time, a certain someone had stammered to cover up the matter. She blinked and said, Yes, she did, but she didn't say too much. I guess you know. He sighed. Xiao Yu, I did ask you out for a meal to get close to her. I apologize. Ji Xiaoya pursed her lips. I knew that a pie in the sky wouldn't fall on my head for no reason. Su Nianhua's eyes were a little apologetic. I'm really sorry. But it's not easy to get the chance to take advantage of your best friend. Ji Xiaoya grinned. I forgive you. Su Nianhua was slightly stunned and seemed a little surprised. But as compensation, you have to tell me how you and Yin Yin know each other. Don't you know? Yin Yin only said a little. I want to know more, can't I? Sigh. I won't tell anyone. I'm Yin Yan's best friend. Don't you believe that I can keep a secret? That's not what I meant. Su Nianhua's face stiffened. I know that you're her best friend. Then tell me, if you still want to pretend to be her family member and accompany her here. Is this a threat? Yes, do you accept it? Ji Xiaoya raised her eyebrows and looked sly. I can only accept it. Su Nianhua looked at Ji Xiaoya helplessly. He thought about the past, and then looked at the person on the hospital bed. He was somewhat depressed. Chapter 94. In the hospital ward, Su Nianhua continued to talk about the events from 10 years ago. 10 years was too long, so he couldn't remember everything clearly. However, with such a slow recollection, the past slowly came back to him bit by bit. He was shocked to realize that he could still remember the first time they met. Yi Huanyan had a ponytail, and the hair tie was black with 2 cute orange balls tied to the ends. Ji Xiaoya looked like a fangirl watching an idol interview live. She covered her face and sighed. Oh my god, my idol is my best friend's first love? This is too bizarre. Su Nianhua lowered his head and forced a smile. Now that the story is over, can I ask you a few questions? Go ahead, go ahead. How is she doing now? The girl on the hospital bed was so pale that no blood could be seen on her face. Even though she was asleep, she would struggle in her sleep from time to time. Previously, when he heard that her mother had passed away 2 years ago in Shanghai, he went back and thought about it a lot. In this world, she probably didn't have any relatives. Ji Xiaoya scratched her head and avoided Su Nianhua's gaze. She's doing okay. She doesn't have to worry about food and clothes. She's the CEO's secretary in the top film and television company in the country. Her annual salary is in the millions. So she's doing pretty well. After saying this, Ji Xiaoya felt a little guilty and felt more and more uncomfortable. She gritted her teeth and said in a low voice, other than her relationship problems, she's really blessed by the heavens. Relationship? Su Nianhua turned around and looked at her. You mean, she has a boyfriend? I don't think so. Ji Xiaoya didn't know how to explain this, so her brows were deeply furrowed. I can't say much about this kind of thing. If there's a chance, wait until Yin Yin wakes up. Ask her yourself. Su Nianhua's gaze fell on Yi Huanyan's face again. He was already feeling guilty, but now he was blaming himself even more. Even if Ji Xiaoya didn't say anything, it was obvious that her boyfriend didn't treat her well. Otherwise, why would he let her lie here alone? If they hadn't broken up back then, they would be doing very well now. Ji Xiaoya felt for her vibrating cell phone. After looking at the caller ID, she frowned and glanced at Su Nianhua. You and Yin Yin can be alone for a while. I'm going out to take this call. It was a call from Ling Han. Ji Xiaoya walked to the entrance of the corridor. After confirming that no one was watching, she pressed the answer button and asked in annoyance. Chief Ling, what business do you have in the middle of the night? Where's Yi Huanyan? A cold voice came from the other end of the phone. As soon as she heard this voice, Ji Xiaoya couldn't suppress the anger in her heart. She jumped up and shouted at the top of her voice. Shouldn't you be the one who knows best where she is? Why are you asking me now? Ling Han, can you be a little more conscientious? Yin Yin likes you so much. Don't you know in your heart that Yin Yin likes you so much? Why do you have to hurt her again and again? 2 days ago. I thought you had already thought it through. What's wrong with you now? You. The other end of the phone was silent for a few seconds. Come to me at work tomorrow to get a letter of recommendation. After you come back from the company trip, go to the personnel office to go through the resignation procedures. Resign? Before Ji Xiaoya could finish speaking, The phone call was hung up. F***CK. What letter of recommendation? You want to fire me? Do you think I'm afraid of you? I have hands and feet, so can't I find a job on my own? I don't need your pity even if I beg for food. The next morning, Ji Xiaoye stood hesitantly in front of Ling Han's desk with 2 letters of recommendation in her hands. She couldn't believe it. President Ling, are you really going to recommend Yin Yan and me to Fengshang? Fengshang was the most famous fashion magazine in China. Almost every artist was proud of being on the cover of Fengshang. As long as they were on Fengshang, almost all of them could get a high-end brand endorsement within a year, because Fengshang itself was a symbol of a big brand. The annual salary and position will be the same as now. If you have other requirements, you can also mention it to their editor-in-chief. But whether you can do it or not depends on you. Ji Xiaoye looked at the letter of recommendation in her hands with almost shining eyes. It was not just the benefits of the position and annual salary. Fengshang was such a big brand magazine. High heels, branded bags, perfume, lipstick, skincare. It was simply a paradise for girls. Her eyes swept over Ling Han's cold face, and she instantly sobered up. She coughed dryly and said, President Ling, it's not that I don't want to work in your company. I actually think it's quite good to work under you. Good my ass. She couldn't wait to leave. If it wasn't for the sake of money, who could bear to see her best friend being destroyed every day? She didn't even have the mood to eat potato chips. If there's nothing else, you can leave. Also, remember to transfer the travel plan to the second planning department before you leave. Ling Han's indifference was within her expectations. She secretly rolled her eyes, and before she left, she asked a question. This letter of recommendation, don't you plan to give it to Yin Yin yourself? Ling Han's indifferent expression seemed to have loosened. After a while he said coldly, no need. If she had a little self-awareness, she wouldn't have come to see me again. Ji Xiaoye frowned, and looked at Ling Han in confusion. What exactly happened last night? How could the 2 of them fight like this? Although she thought about it, she didn't have the courage to ask. When Yi Huanyan woke up in the hospital, it was already afternoon. The nurse pulled out the 4 drip for her, and the pain on the back of her hand woke her up with a start. Miss Yi, you're awake? The nurse put away the 4 drip and smiled. This is the hospital? Isn't it the hospital? Your friend sent you here. Last night, your boyfriend also came and stayed with you the whole night. Oh right, before he left this morning, he told me to tell you to rest well. The company has already taken leave, so you don't have to rush to work. Yi Huanyan was stunned. Did Ling Han come? After the nurse left, she tried to sit up on the bed. A tearing pain in her lower body made her gasp. Large beads of cold sweat appeared on her forehead. She held the edge of the bed for a long time, before she could regain her senses. Last night, the phone beside the bed rang and interrupted her painful memories. Ji Xiaoye's chattering voice came from the phone. She seemed to have received some good news and was jumping for joy. I knew you were awake. Wait for me. I bought food for you and brought it to the hospital. I have good news for you. Oh right, what do you want to eat? Yi Huanyan pulled the corners of her mouth and forced a bitter smile. Anything will do. Anything light will do. Her weak body made her uninterested in anything. But she couldn't bear to reject Ji Xiaoye's kindness. How about this? You haven't recovered yet. I'll go and see if there's anything that can help you recover. I'll buy some for you. Okay. After hanging up the phone, the ward fell into silence. It was evening. The light of the setting sun outside the window bloomed little by little. You thought it was blooming. You thought it was very dazzling. But you didn't know that after this short moment of light, it was a chaotic night. Chapter 95. As soon as the sun went down, Ji Xiaoye appeared at the door of the ward with a thermos. She was wrapped tightly in a beige coat and a gray scarf. As soon as she entered the room, she brought a gust of cold wind. She unwrapped the scarf and stomped her feet in front of the bed. Damn the weather. It was above 0 yesterday, but after the rain, it dropped a few degrees. I'm freezing. Didn't you take a taxi? I don't have money, so I took the bus. I spent all my savings for this month to get you admitted to the hospital last night. You have to pay me back as soon as you're discharged. Otherwise, I'll really have to eat. The bank card is in my bag. You can take it yourself. Yi Huanyan's face was pale, and her voice was very weak. I won't tease you anymore. I don't have that much money. I took the bank card from your bag last night. The password hasn't been changed for so many years. I have a conscience. Other people would have taken your money away. Ji Xiaoya rubbed her hands and opened the thermos. She giggled. Let's not talk about this. I brought you fish soup. Drink it while it's hot. Yi Huanyan forced a smile and drank 2 mouthfuls of soup from Ji Xiaoya's hand. You didn't make it yourself, right? After drinking it, she felt a warmth in her lower abdomen. The faint smell of the medicine box in the soup spread in the ward. I asked the housekeeper to help me. Ji Xiaoya stuffed the thermos into Yi Huanyan's hand and guiltily avoided her eyes. Drink it yourself. Yi Huanyan didn't suspect anything. She held the spoon and slowly drank the soup. The taste of the soup was quite familiar. She didn't have much appetite, but after drinking 2 mouthfuls, she felt quite comfortable. Ji Xiaoya tilted her head and took something out of her bag. She couldn't help but think of the inexplicable scene before she got off work. Before she got off work, Ling Han called her to the office and magically brought out a thermos. His tone was very stiff as he asked her to bring it to the hospital. To be honest, she really couldn't understand what Ling Han was thinking. For example, he clearly wanted to show goodwill, but he coldly warned her not to tell Yi Huanyan that he prepared the soup. Why? You didn't poison the soup, did you? Ji Xiaoya couldn't hold back and exposed her inner thoughts. Ling Han glanced at her coldly. His tone was a little gloomy. If you want her to drink it and recover as soon as possible, and if you want her to leave pleasure group and not care about any self-righteous old feelings between us, then don't say anything. It was also Ling Han's words that made her hold back. Just as she took out the 2 recommendation letters, Ji Xiaoya looked at Yi Huanyan and saw that she didn't look too bad. She took them out and said, Yin Yan, I have good news for you. All right, go ahead. You know Fengshang magazine, right? When we were in college, all the students in the Academy of Arts racked their brains to get into it. Yes, I know. They started to cooperate with our company last year. Every year, they regularly shoot a collective cover for the company's artists. At the beginning of last year, Sheng Anren was on their cover. When Sheng Anren was mentioned, Yi Huanyan's face changed slightly. She seemed to be a little disgusted, and there was obviously a trace of forbearance on her face. Ji Xiaoya wasn't in the mood to hear anything wrong from her words. Her mind was full of how to persuade this woman, who was only devoted to Ling Han, to take the initiative to quit her job and run to a better future with her. Now there's an opportunity. Let's work at Fengshang together. What do you think? She said casually, and Yi Huanyan didn't take it seriously. She drank a mouthful of fish soup and said lightly, What do you mean? It's not like I don't have a job. What if you don't have a job? Ji Xiaoya suddenly became serious. Don't forget that the travel plan can't be completed according to the company's requirements. Ling Han wants the 2 of us to quit. The military order has been made. What if it doesn't succeed? Yi Huanyan was slightly stunned. She looked at Ji Xiaoya suspiciously. What are you trying to say? She suddenly mentioned Fengshang, suddenly talked about quitting, and suddenly beat around the bush. Ji Xiaoya frowned and took out 2 recommendation letters in her hand. These are the recommendation letters from Fengshang. The 2 of us can take these directly to Fengshang's editor-in-chief, and we can be hired directly. The annual salary of the position is the same as that of Fengshang, and we can do the things we like. Think about it, those bags, perfume, shoes, we deal with these every day. How many women dream of Xiaoyu? Yi Huanyan suddenly put the thermos of fish soup on the table. Her face was stiff. Where did these recommendation letters come from? Why do we have to leave? Yin Yan. Ji Xiaoya saw that she didn't look good, so she quickly explained. Isn't it better to start over in another place? Xiaoyu, we haven't failed yet. The deadline hasn't arrived yet. How do you know we can't complete it? Her anxious tone made it sound as if she had been betrayed. Did you meet with a setback at Guan Nai's place? It's okay. I'll talk to her. Ji Xiaoya looked at her and frowned even more. Ling Han gave them to me. She interrupted Yi Huanyan's hopeful blueprint prospects. Her words cut off the last trace of hope she had. It was Ling Han who asked us to leave, not me. No matter how hard you work, it's useless. The boss doesn't appreciate you, or even hates you. He wants you to leave as soon as possible. This has nothing to do with your ability. It has to do with you as a person. Yi Huanyan, do you understand? The subtext behind those words was written all over Ji Xiaoya's face. There was a trace of pity in her eyes. This kind of pity made Yi Huanyan's heart gradually turn cold. The color on her face, which had instantly improved because of her anxiety, disappeared bit by bit. She stared blankly at Ji Xiaoya, her eyes dim. Yin Yan, start over in another place. Although I don't know what exactly happened between the two of you last night, it's pretty much the same as before. What kind of life have you had for the past half a year? How much longer are you going to humiliate yourself? Do you owe him? Do you owe him? Yi Huanyan? She slowly lowered her head. Her fingers touched the recommendation letter on the table. Her voice was a little choked. Xiao Yu, it seems like I really do owe him. Ji Xiaoya cried out in alarm. She watched as the recommendation letter was torn into pieces in Yi Huanyan's hands. The pieces scattered on the snow-white bedsheets like butterflies fluttering in the wind. They lost their lives and fell to the ground one after another. What are you doing? She grabbed her hand, but it was too late. Xiao Yu, Fengshang is a place that you like. If you want to go, you can go. I can't go. You're still thinking about him? You still like him? Are you crazy? Ji Xiaoya's face was filled with anger and disbelief. She was so angry that her head was about to explode from her disappointing best friend. Just take it that I'm crazy. I want to be discharged. Hey, what are you doing? There's not much time. I have to talk to those clients and artists. Talk to your sister. Can you even go out in your current condition? Ji Xiaoya held her forehead with a speechless expression. Yi Huanyan, sit down. I have a piece of news. Do you want to hear it? It's about the company's plans. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.